We are live at the 2017 Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships. I'm Jake Shuknik, live streaming along with Ivo.
Yes, that's Ivo Van Bastelaire.
Ivo Van Bastelaire.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. We're going to be watching the triples today with British Columbia A against Nova Scotia. And first player is known by Patrick Sum.
Beautiful day here in sunny British Columbia. We're at the Juan de Fuca Lawn Bowling Club, which has a pretty fantastic complex here. They've got almost everything here that I could think of. They got golf, baseball, lacrosse, swimming, hockey.
It's a phenomenal resort opportunity for the people here in British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Really good facility, well managed. The greenskeeper here has done an excellent job too, by the way. And finally, we have a day when we don't have the smoke covering us, which has been the case for the last 2.5 weeks. Forest fires in British Columbia did a number on the coast as well.
Mm-hmm. I heard there was quite a bit of fire. I haven't had rain for a long time. I should send you some from Ottawa. We've had almost record-breaking summer with all the rain we've got.
We had record-breaking smoke. All right, we just had Nova Scotia throw in their first bowl. Second bowl, actually.
So how long have you been bowling for, Ivo?
I've been bowling for about 17 years. Finally made it to the national level.
Mm-hmm.
Took a long time. My wife beat me there by probably a dozen years. And my granddaughter.
Well, I think you and I are tied then. I'm pretty sure I've been bowling for 17 years as well, actually, now that I think about it.
Right?
So, yeah.
Started in 2000?
Yeah, that's about when I started. We'll have to have a game sometime, see who's 17 years of experience wins out.
Slow learners.
Yeah, that's us.
It is. I recognize a lot of these names go down to Arizona in this wintertime to bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Bezanson here goes down quite regularly.
That's down in Arizona or Florida?
Down in Arizona.
Arizona?
Sun City, Arizona.
Beautiful place.
It's kind of the lawn bowling capital of North America.
I've been down there a few times myself. It's a gorgeous area. I'd love to stay down there a lot longer than what I've been.
Yeah. Greens are often up into the order of 15, 16 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Steve on his first ball.
This is, of course, the opening round, first round of the Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships. They'll be playing 2 games per day from here until Thursday, and then Friday they've got 1 game in the morning with potentially tiebreakers in the afternoon. So we're going to be here all week, streaming right up until the finals on Saturday. Looks like we might have a few glitches with the cameras here, as you can't really see the head based on the other end there. When I switch back, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. You can see them delivering the ball fine, but as soon as I switch, the skips are right smack in the middle of the head. You can't really see a whole lot. So we're going to play around with that later throughout the week. So this first game might be a little rough, and I apologize in advance for that. Are you a member of this club here, Juan de Fuca?
Well, I'm an associate member of Juan de Fuca, but I bowl out of Sydney Club.
Oh, okay.
And in Victoria, we've got 11 clubs within probably a half-an-hour drive.
Okay.
So
yeah.
we've got a lot of clubs that we bowl out of in terms of tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So the South Island is very active with the tournaments. There's Steve's bowl coming in.
Just coming through there.
Yep, coming through, good back bowl.
Bit of a wide open scattered area here. It's
well, you could measure
first end.
Yeah, first end. Just boys are just getting used to it.
Mm-hmm. 18 end games is what they'll be playing.
18
Actually, no, triples is only 16. My apologies. 16 is triples.
16 ends, yeah.
Lots of game ahead of them.
So this is Eric coming up here now, Eric Leung on the mat.
And you were thinking he's playing with Spectrums?
I believe it is. I bowled against him in New Westminster.
Oh, yes.
He won the game with two beautifully placed bowls, right? His last two bowls of the game. Just came in perfect, drew within inches of the jack.
Must have been the Spectrums.
It was, because he bowled around just a very cluttered head, drew right to the jack twice. Doing it once is luck, doing it twice in a row is skill.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. I like that. Once is luck, twice is skill.
You know what they say, even a blind squirrel can not find a nut in the forest once in a while, but to find it twice means you know what you're doing.
Yep, yeah. And that'll be the key to this week, being able to do it more than once or twice, as it's going to be a long week for these athletes.
Well, I can see that these greens are going to change speed quite a bit over the course of the week as well. They're probably running about 11 seconds right now, just over 11.
I've heard so many different numbers after we got in on Saturday, and people were practicing Saturday and Sunday, and I've heard anywhere between 10 and 11, and I've heard up to 13. So really depends on, I guess, which deck and how sunny it is to dry things out and pick up the pace a little.
It really depends how you measure it. If you're measuring it with a jack and a ramp,
Mm-hmm.
it comes out a little faster than if you actually time the bowl. And it looks
That's
like
just through.
I've been a fan of timing the bowl because that's how you feel it when you're on the green.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All we need is overhead cameras.
That's right.
Good.
That's right. Have to run some strings along the top there that we can hang a camera from or something.
It'd be nice to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Track the bowl down. So how are we doing in that head now?
Well, they're gonna go and take a look,
Lots of pointing and waving.
picking out one there that I think that was a Nova Scotia blue.
I expect that'll be Nova Scotia.
Looking again. Look at the height difference there between those two vices. I think Steve's got probably 1.5 feet on him.
Looks like we're reaching for the measure at this point.
Mm-hmm. Big thanks to George Cubis and his officiating crew. There are lots of umpires strolling around here that are eager to help out if need be, but as these are the majors, most of the players are pretty competent at measuring themselves.
Yeah. Quite often there are some challenges though. They've done a good job of training up the umpires here in British Columbia as well.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And same with the markers. A couple of our people have taken on the training of markers, and
Mm-hmm.
they're doing an excellent job. Very well qualified.
Well, that looks like 2 for Nova Scotia.
Yep. Nova Scotia picked up the 2.
Yeah, training markers is a sometimes overlooked necessity. I've been in quite a few singles tournaments where some volunteers will come out to help, but not necessarily trained up to snuff to
Exactly. Good
to
intentions.
marking. Yep, great intentions. Just need a little more training.
They're extremely important to a player as well. A seasoned player really relies on the marker when they ask a question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, if you get the wrong information from the marker, or if it's delivered the wrong way, it can really upset a game.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way we got the camera set up here, I might actually be able to leave it on this angle for the entire end, playing this way, because you can see them on the mat, so you'll be able to see them deliver the bowl, and you can watch it come right down. So this might actually be a
Yeah, it's good.
pretty good camera angle for us.
Good angle. Good bowl coming in here.
No, that's a beautiful
Very nice.
opener.
Good start. You know, people underestimate the value of the lead. It really sets up the game.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings is the lead wins games, the skip determines by how much.
That's right. That's right. You can really see it in the majors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now this week, Patrick is bowling. He's also got a very nice first bowl.
Oh, that's a great opener. It looks like these leads are going to have a good battle.
Draws shot gold. 2 bowls probably within 8 inches of the jack.
Mhm.
2 bowls. Excellent. And a 3rd bowl coming in not very far away as well. Look at that. The weight was excellent.
Yeah, perfect weight on that. Now there are lots of different colored bowls that we'll be seeing throughout this game, but if you can see it, I'm not sure how big you've got it blown up on your TVs back home, but Nova Scotia has the blue stickers and BC has the gold stickers, as those are the traditional provincial colors in terms of decals.
We can see that the game's already starting to tighten up compared to the first head.
Mm-hmm.
4 bowls, all within, probably within 300 cents of the jack in terms of the weight. Another one right in there. Patrick's last bowl coming in just a little bit short. Right in front. Good detractor for a drive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know that both these teams probably won't be too shy when it comes to having to throw some upweight shots.
No. Steve has no problem throwing up weight. He's coming a little narrow on that one.
Yeah, didn't like that, and he's looking away right away. Was looking over at D deck.
I notice with a lot of these, the Chinese bowlers particularly have very nice deliveries, really well disciplined in terms of their shots. You can tell that they put in a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing that surprisingly few people do is practice in this game.
It's amazing.
Boggles my mind how few people actually put in the time needed to perform.
Have you noticed how much more lucky you are when you practice?
Yeah, it pays off wonders, doesn't it?
It does.
I used to always think it was just because I had a bigger bowl that I'd get more friendly rubs, but no, when you put in time to practice, you're usually a lot closer than
that's right
than you were before.
Steve had just an unfortunate hit there, pushed Michael's ball in, or Patrick's ball in. It looks like we're balancing up quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Steve's got one last chance at it here.
This is, of course, the last year we'll actually be playing 3-bowl triples, as that's going to be phased out next year.
I understand they're dropping it down to 2-bowl triples, right?
For the seniors, yeah. Yeah, and then there won't actually be any triples in the majors at all next year, which will be a big change. And that was a good strike there from Steve. And I believe they actually have some markers there on the boundary rink, which is quite nice. You'll be able to tell real quick if that's in or out. And that still looks like that's in by quite a bit.
Yeah, Steve's not afraid to throw enough weight to take it out of there. We've got one more bowl left here. Michael's last bowl has a chance to draw it in, see how he varies. See how he can adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Position jack.
And we'll see if it actually does draw back from way out there. Some rinks, once you get to the out of bounds marker, it tends to sort of hang out and doesn't want to draw back to the center.
He's made a nice shot here.
Oh, that's a beautiful bowl.
That nice adjustment.
Beautiful bowl.
That's Michael Shea.
This is almost the same Nova Scotia team that won gold medal last year. It was Steve Bezanson, Steve Ogden, and instead of the lead Mike, they had Terry O'Neill.
Oh, yes.
So they shook things up a little bit, but 2 out of 3 is still the defending champion for triples.
Terry's bowling pairs, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. He's playing pairs this year.
Now Steve's pulling in a good load, just his weight.
Yeah, just a bit too quick.
Yep.
The ditches here look pretty level. When I was talking to Davey, he said that when they're hovering around that 12-second mark, 11-second mark, you can still play right up to the end of the ditch there pretty close.
Oh, yes. Yeah. greenskeeper here has just done a marvelous job of looking after these greens.
Can't say thanks to the greenskeeper enough for that, because there's 4 decks here, and that's no easy task to keep 4 decks up and running.
And for a little while, these greens were in really, really tough shape. They were struggling, and he spent innumerable hours just bringing them back. Very conscientious man.
Mm-hmm.
Steve has a chance of getting in there now. Seeing if he can beat Michael's last hole. He's become a little tight. See if Eric can make the right adjustment now. He's a little tight as well, by the looks of that. It's interesting how many of the bowlers are also curlers or have had a background in curling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's quite a few that will curl in the winter and bowl in the summer to...
Well, we've got one fellow here who's a national coach who says that if he found out about lawn bowling 20 years earlier, he would have mandated that all of his curlers lawn bowl.
Really?
It's perfect cross-training.
Huh. It's a pity he didn't find it 20 years earlier then, that he could have done that.
That's it. And he's becoming quite an accomplished bowler himself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's only been bowling for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it looks like Eric's having trouble getting his green, but
Mm-hmm. Struggling with that a little bit.
enough to get second shot, I believe.
So that'll be 2 for BC then to tie things up.
Ties it up. I got a hunch we're going to see lots of tie games.
Yeah, I have that feeling too. And of course, if there are any tiebreakers by the time we get to the end of the week, they'll all be played on the green on Friday afternoon. If there are any ties in the standings to qualify for playoffs.
Eric's team is all over the Lower Mainland area. I believe they're mostly in New Westminster.
Oh, yeah.
New Westminster and Richmond.
Well, I'm not entirely sure where the Nova Scotia crew is out of. I know when I was in Dartmouth there for the juniors last week, I saw Steve Zanson came down to watch. But I'm not too sure what all of the clubs are. Actually, if you go to the Bowls Canada website and you look at the player list on the championship tab, new this year we actually do have next to their name is the club they listed as their home club, so you can go and check that out to see where everybody's from.
It's on the draw sheets.
Yep. It's a pretty good opening bowl there.
Again, Patrick starts with a great bowl. Great bowl behind the jack. Not too deep. This is Mike Hadley.
These Nova Scotia lads, they tend to be at this thing year in and year out, just changing up positions or disciplines once in a while, but a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah, see them. Good competitors. This looks a little bit on the professional side.
Mm-hmm.
Side. Jack.
Such a different game from singles. When I was at the juniors last week streaming, and people were just so quick on the mat, and it was really just you pick a side and you master it, and then it was just who could master their side quicker really determined the game. But in triples and team games, it's such a different format, different strategy. There's so much more going on.
Yep. The 2 9-end games with the tiebreaker and singles is a little different game to play.
Mm-hmm.
He's got another good one coming in here. Look at this.
Oh, that's a beauty start for
Beauty start.
British Columbia.
Patrick placed him in there nicely, set up the head for the back end.
Now you might not be able to see till next end, but Patrick actually has a glove on his hand, which I've seen quite a few bowlers wear. He's the lead over here filling his water bottle. I find it difficult for me to control a bowl if I wear anything on my hands other than just my bare fingertips. But for some bowlers, they can just grip it a little better or hold it a little better, especially in wet weather.
I find that it's so important just to get the feel of the bowl for myself. I don't like to have any impediment on my hand. Another good bowl.
Oh, BC is putting some pressure on here. Look at that.
Lots of pressure. Just dragged it back. That was Michael. Just dragged it back into Patrick's 2 bowls. It's going to put Steve in a bit of position. And blocker in his eye out front. Coming in on the forehand. I got a hunch we might see a little bit of weight here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Enough to move it through. Yep, here it comes. Is he going to get around that one in front? On the inside.
On the inside, yeah, wrong side.
That weighted shot is sometimes a challenging one to throw.
Mm-hmm.
They say if you can't drive it.
Yeah, especially when you get to the Southern Hemisphere type of play, that's really the only 2 shots is drive or draw because of how quick the greens are, and with any sort of a gust of wind, trying to play anything aside from that is sometimes nearly impossible. So usually either just drive or draw.
This is going to be very much of a temptation. He's just made the jack about 2 feet wide. I got a hunch Steve will be going for it again, which he is. A little bit more weight, holds his line a little better, and he gets connection.
Yeah, that's a good strike. Bazinga.
Very nice shot. That's the challenge when you put too many holes around the jack.
Yep.
It makes it too big.
Too juicy of a target.
Yeah. So the jack is reset now.
Yeah, reset to the 2 meter mark there. Now there is no respot here. That's right. That takes effect next year. So that's just a dead end.
Replay. That's a good drive. Much better than going 4 down.
Yep.
Certainly takes some pressure off the skip.
Does it ever?
You know, the longer you can keep the pressure off the skip, the better the chance of bowling well
Mm-hmm.
in future ends. Bowls without that pressure. And that's really the importance of the front end. You know, keep the pressure off the next player. There's a lot of stress which comes to the lead because of that, because they're trying to take the pressure off the second, third player. And likewise with the third player, to take the pressure off the skip. The less pressure they got on, the better they bowl.
That's the truth. One of our old national team coaches, Lachlan Tai from Australia, he really emphasized that, and he talked about percentages. So if you're within a mat length, then that's a great shot, and 100%. But if you're more than a mat length, then that's not as useful. So that's 0. So you could track your percentages. So I believe he said stats-wise, the lead should be somewhere around 60 to 70% all the time throughout the game, getting their bowls within a mat length of the target, whether that's the jack or whatnot. But it got to progressively lower as you increase through the lineup. So the lead was the highest percentage, and by the time you got to skip, there was one skip who's won a world title by only shooting 35% during the game, which isn't a whole lot to only make 35% of your shots. But if your front end is on fire and playing really well, then pressure's off.
Then again, the job of the skip is so different. So I wonder if that's really a valid estimation, because so often he's going either heavy,
Yep.
to either get shot or put in a back hole, or he's putting in a block. You don't find the blocks too often at this level.
No, not too often.
But certainly whether it's heavy for a back hole or to protect what you've got, he's not drawn within the within the mat.
No, but the way the skips keep track is it's within a mat length of their target.
Of
So
the target.
so if that's a back bowl, then they say I want you right here, and you have to be a mat length of my foot or what have you. But where it gets tricky to track though is if you end up throwing a drive or an upweight shot, because I don't know how you would track that if you get some sort of a connection, but not necessarily the connection you want. Is that 100% or 0%, or I don't know how you would track that.
I think it's either a make it or break it.
Yeah.
You either make it or you don't. So Michael got a good start on that one.
He came to play.
Yeah. He's just behind the jack. They say that the leads should be bowling 50 to 60% of their shots within 300 cents of the jack, within a foot. at this level. And that's the caliber we're going to see here mostly today, or during this tournament certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly as the guys get used to the speed of the green. I imagine the speed of the greens in Nova Scotia are probably similar to here.
I would assume so. When we were at Dartmouth, we played on their artificial carpet, and that was probably around 12 seconds or so. So that's not too different from what you'll find here.
I heard that the greens in Dartmouth got very fast though when it got wet.
I'm not entirely sure how that worked out, because the day that it rained, I wasn't able to stream just because the equipment.
The equipment got wet.
Yeah, it's not exactly waterproof, so I didn't set up anything that day. But I do know that there were quite a few puddles started to form on the artificial, because it just absolutely poured. And once there's puddles, then that just slows everything right down.
Yeah. Look at this, Mike's finding his own right now.
Oh, beautiful bowl.
3 bowls within, probably within 300 mils, 300 cents.
Are you a fan of the logic saying that a lead should just pick one hand and master it throughout the game?
You know, it really depends on the green. You know, if you get a really good side, you're going to be changing your hands.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a side that just is drawing consistently, you're going to throw, forehand on one way and backhand on the other. Other times you just get into the rhythm of your one hand. And of course, it really depends on your opposition too. He's only one hand and he's got an ace. You're going to try to take that away from him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Steve shows that he can draw just as well as he can drive.
Such a different setup to the end here now that he killed that last one.
Look at how much tighter this end is than the first end too.
Yeah.
Shows you how these guys are starting to zero in very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is only the third end and they're already drawing within a meter of the jack.
Mm-hmm. Every bowl there is a useful bowl.
So Patrick's got the back bowl back there just in case it goes back again. Learned his lesson from the first one. Yes, we want a back bowl just in case. Look at this. Is he going to go through that hole? He is close. Look at that.
And Vice will walk down to take a look. As I believe that, yeah, after your second bowl, you're allowed to go down and scope things out.
It looks like Eric is calling for a little bit of weight on this, so it could well be that they're down a bit. I think I see about 2 of Nova Scotia's balls in there.
Mm-hmm.
These 2, depending on how Steve came in on his third. Position of the third. You either draw a shot or you rearrange your furniture.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Make it so that your skip has a chance of getting in. Eric's bulls draw around that just the same, but it'd be to his advantage to have something.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. You definitely want something close, and here he is looking to change things up.
Well, rearranged it a little bit.
Yeah, change things up a little bit.
Still see a blue dot close to the jack, though.
That might make me tempted to switch hands if I'm BC now, though, to see if I can come in there and at least draw a second shot, if not shot itself.
That's really the key, is just making sure you get second shot.
Mm-hmm.
If you got first shot, get second shot.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have first shot, get second shot.
Never give up more than
one.
That's a lot of good strategies, is to never give up multiples. If you can stick to that for an entire game, normally you'll have a chance for the whole game, just about.
Well, when the games are 16 ends long, you don't mind going down a couple at the front end, but you certainly can't afford it as the game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose a big head, lose it quickly.
Yep, you definitely want it to be at the start.
So it's going to be open on the forehand for Eric, I suspect.
I think he might be playing on his backhand.
I think he's going to be playing his backhand. I suspect he's going to be coming in with a little bit of weight, which he is. Moving things around.
When the dust settles, it still looks to be Nova Scotia for a couple.
Yeah, at least a couple. Could actually be 3. And Steve's calling him in backhand. Put another one in, I suspect. Going for the juggler quickly here.
Yeah, it is pretty crucial if you can get off to a hot start early, because then you can kind of, I don't want to say coast the rest of the game, but you're not trying to catch up.
Yeah. He's got his back pull in there anyway now. Now, how is Eric with his draw after a weighted shot? Again, coming to backhand, so it's open there for him. You go down and have a look. Watch how it lands. I believe he's a little shy.
Yeah, that's coming up a fair bit short. It's definitely not what you want to do when you're down in the head, is come up short.
That's an ABS shot. Anything but short.
Yep, yeah. When you're down, you gotta be up.
Looks like Steve's drawing in another nice pull here.
Yeah, that's a
That could be 3,
another one into the count, but
possibly 4.
one left to come for each skip.
So Eric's going to make the proper adjustment on this. This is the critical shot for Eric on this head. A little bit more weight on it. He's got to find something to
Find
lead
a
on.
friend, and I think he's outside, and he pushed in another Nova Scotia bull, I believe.
That's a Nova Scotia bull. Looks to me like 4. And here's the gimme.
Steve's just calling for a draw. Sometimes this can be the toughest bowl, though, when you're already lying a few to just draw with your last.
It is. You just have to get your head around the fact that you've got all those points and you're not going to upset him. You're just going to draw it in, get another one.
And
I think he's done it. Good bull. Good bull.
yeah, that should do it. That could be a handful.
Got a hunch. It looks like 5 to me. It's a big hit for Eric.
6.
6.
Wowza.
Substantial lead there.
Well, as we said not too long ago, if you're going to give a big one, make sure it's at the start of the game.
That's
so.
right. He's got lots of time to try to make it back now. And sometimes that works for you to your advantage. The other team might get a little bit complacent.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3 at a time.
Yeah.
Before you know it, I'd much rather be coming back from being down as opposed to having a comfortable lead. Again, it's just a different mentality, a different mindset.
Yeah, that's so true. Once you get up to a double-digit lead, it can sometimes really be tough to still continue to put the pressure on, and you really need to. But it's tough to do once you're winning by such a hefty amount.
Yeah, it looks like Mike is continuing with the pressure. He's got a really good start here. Look at that, beautiful ball.
Yeah, that's a great opening ball there from Mike.
He's about 14 inches behind the jack. By the looks of that. Let's see if Patrick can match it. He's been usually fairly good at this length too. Fairly consistent.
That's one thing I didn't really see too much at the juniors, was anybody playing with the mat length, bringing the mat up and playing around with that. I saw a few people, but not many. But I would expect to see that quite a bit this week, of people bringing the mat up to the hog line or anywhere in between to try to get a different length, or to throw off your opponent, or play whatever you've been practicing and you're comfortable with. But it can be a pretty useful strategy sometimes, although I would expect most people here are going to be quite used to playing around with mat lengths.
Well, it really shows the importance of practicing both the long jack and the short jack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everybody tends to hold 3/4 jack, 2/3, 3/4.
Yep.
This is just a little bit longer than 3/4 length right now. So
That's
adjustment by Patrick. Good for second shot anyway.
That's kind of an interesting statement, that a lot of people out here like to play the 2/3 to 3/4 length jack. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I find that to be almost completely opposite. When I played in Ontario, a lot of people play
Either
really short, or if they're struggling really short, then they play T to T. But for the most part, I found most players like to play the shorter ends. So it's such a different way of playing, East Coast to West Coast.
I think we find on the West Coast that most people hold at 2/3, 3/4. And it's anybody's game in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get the jack, then you can bowl to your opponent's perceived weakness. And I say perceived at this point because I don't think anybody's at this caliber has got a real weakness.
Yeah, not a huge gaping one that you can see.
Now, everybody's behind the jack too. They're on the professional side behind jack.
And that's one thing you can't emphasize enough is if you're going to throw your bull, you always want to at least be reaching, as short bulls tend to not be the greatest to have.
Wow, you can't have them short. Unless you're within about, about a foot in front.
Mm-hmm.
A foot in front is still usable. So
Yep.
you get pushed in.
Yep. Anything more than that, though, and you're starting to lose its usefulness.
Then it usually adds to Michael's come about a meter in front on that one, which would be good if he was sitting shot, but not sitting shot, it could be a little bit of a bother. Steve lays down his bowl nicely, doesn't he?
So many players here have just such beautiful, smooth deliveries.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Oh, that's a great bowl there.
Excellent bowl.
Nova Scotia's really putting some pressure on here now.
That's for sure. Now we've got to see them drawing within the 300 mils of the jack. 300 cents, excuse me. He's got lots to lean on there. He just has to put it in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A bit of a pressure bowl for him right now. Got a hunch Eric might be getting a little bit worried about this.
Oh,
After
he's
losing that big end.
definitely not short, but I think he found the
He's not
gap.
short.
Found the gap.
Amazing, there'd be so many bulls in the head. Finds the hole. Just
Yep.
sails right through. Steve got another chance. He's going to change his hands. Drag it back to his 3 at the back there. It'd be real benefit for his team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's trying to do.
He's got a nice line. It's all going to be all in his weight.
Not sure if he's here. I think he's coming up a bit short. Yeah,
Pulled the string a little bit.
that's going to make it tricky to draw it off on that hand now. You'll have to come inside and
Well, I think
have just about
Michael's
perfect
coming
weight.
around the other side, either to land on the 2 in the back or just draw around his bull in front. He's not far off. He's not far off.
That's a much better bull.
Yeah, jack level. Could still be down 3 though.
Yeah, I think it might still be 3 there.
How's that camera on the far end? Does it pick up the?
So the camera down here only sees the mat, but the camera that we're using right here beside us, you can kind of just see the head there.
Oh yeah. Well, Eric's facing a deficit of 6 at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly gives him lots of incentive to try hard.
Yeah, absolutely, and lots of incentive not to be short, I would think.
Yeah. Now sometimes that's all you need to really bring out the best. Right?
Just to.
Looking at saying, okay, it's an uphill run, but we can do it.
Yeah, it's surprising how many people thrive when they're under that kind of pressure, but once they have a bit of a lead, they just can't keep it on.
And at the end of the day, it's a draw game.
Mm-hmm.
The people that draw consistently and regularly are the ones that usually come out ahead, I think. Even the very best guy's only going to make half of his drives, and only half of those are going to turn out in his favor at the very best. Eric's got a good one here. Look at this. That's his bull we pulled in.
That certainly helps.
I think it cut it down.
Yeah, Steve just said holding 1 here now. So he was saying that could be second shot.
It's possible. It's hard to see from this angle.
That looks pretty far away. I don't know if I'd say that's second shot. I think he was just being conservative, saying, hey, we're still holding. Steve's calling it down, and that's a
draw. Look at this.
great draw.
Look at this. Shot drawn. Shot drawn. Nice touch from Nova Scotia there. That's Steve Ogden.
That is right. That is Steve Ogden. The 2 Steves have played together for several years, many years.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Well,
that got
that's
him down. There's second shot. Just
definitely
over.
second.
Again, just living up that adage. When you're down, don't be short.
Mm-hmm. So Steve was just calling there for a caterpillar. He just wants another draw at exactly like his last bowl. He wasn't looking for anything overly aggressive, not looking to push a bowl or move a jack or anything. He's just looking to just a nice clean draw.
And Steve just had a nice one in there, so he's just making it again. Look at this. Very good. Look
Very good effort. Could be.
He's got a nice touch. Could be a couple down right now, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
What's Michael telling him? He's certainly not going to be short. He's got a lovely ball.
Could
here.
be in the area.
It's going to happen.
Just on the outside.
He was in the area, but two down.
Steve likes 2, so that'll make it 10-2 for Nova Scotia.
BC certainly got their work cut up for him on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I perceive that Nova Scotia team might have been practicing a bit.
I wouldn't be surprised if they put in a few hours here or there to get ready for this event. You know, last night at the banquet, I was sitting at the table with the band. That was Ken Levine and the crew, and had a nice little chat with him. But he asked me for a few lawn bowling jokes, which I didn't give him anything. But his other question was, who's the favorite going into this event? And I was sort of at a loss for words. I didn't know if I could really pick a favorite for who's going to win everything here. As there are so many tough competitors here that I don't know if I can really say outright Team A or Team B is going to absolutely win gold, or Province A or Province B is for sure going to clean sweep. It's a very tough field here, and I just couldn't come up with an answer for who's the favorite.
Yeah. Well, Ontario's certainly got a good contingent. BC's got a large contingent. All of the teams that are representing this caliber, they're just excellent bowlers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of some of the guys from Saskatchewan, the young fellows that have been bowling for more years than you and I at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
Must have started when they were 7.5. It's amazing how the young bowlers are coming on so well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It really does help when you start at a young age, because it's so quick to pick up and perfect your delivery at an early age, and it's a lot easier to learn, I found.
The biggest disadvantage of all these young bowlers coming on so well is that they're going to be bowling before we retire. Competition will be extreme.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is really necessary to bring lawn bowling, into its own in Canada. We see so many young bowlers coming out of the UK, just excellent bowlers. UK and Australia.
Yeah, Australia has quite a young crowd down there. I was at the World Youth Championships a few years ago and played against many youngsters, and seeing them now on the national squads for their countries is a beautiful thing to see.
And there's very, very few sports that you can enter into that have got the opportunities that lawn bowling has in Canada. So the young bowlers have just had such an advantage. Huge opportunity to learn more than just the skills of lawn bowling. These are skills which apply all the way through life, whether it be intergenerational relationships or muscle memory, the lack of physical damage.
Yeah, that is a big perk, a big bonus, I suppose.
And the opportunity to participate in a sport and not have to be a mixed martial art fighter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look at this.
Oh, that's a pretty good bowl there.
Well, we've got Michael and Patrick pretty well matched in this as leads. Michael's in there, sitting shot right now. Patrick's bowls are pretty fine in the back there.
Steve will be looking to maybe drag the jack back a little bit, or just rest on
I think
a green.
Trying to rest on the green, but looks of it. Well, he's achieved a back pull, still has point. Down 3 by the looks of what Derek just mentioned. So this is Michael Shea now. Not sure if it's Shea or Shea.
Well, when in doubt, I always just say I apologize if I'm butchering a name, but I'm going to call it Shea.
With a name like mine, I shouldn't be butchering anybody's name.
Not actually. The few times that I've seen him play, he normally plays front end for Steve Ogden in pairs or triples, but he definitely does know how to skip. I know when he plays mixed pairs with his wife, he's on the back end there.
And his wife also made it through this year too, didn't she?
That's right. She's playing here as well.
One of the beauties about this sport is that as a married couple, you can bowl with your spouse. Oh, look at that beautiful shot. Michael just drew shot on that. Just tucked behind the jack. Excellent shot. It's one of the few sports where, everybody in the family can compete.
Mm-hmm. And it tends to be a family game too. When you see all the youngsters joining, it's usually a family affair.
And what we've found at Sydney Club is that when the juniors have come into the club, quite often the parents or the grandparents join.
Mm-hmm.
And they become quite accomplished players as well.
That's right. That's right. That's usually how it works.
Amazing. Once people participate in this sport, they see the advantages of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says, I'm not going to start until I get old.
And then once they do start, they say, I wish I would have started this 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And when you start at age 12 or 13, by the time you reach the ripe old age of 18, you're bowling internationally.
Yep.
How many sports can you do that in?
Yeah, not many. Not many. I used to get that comment a lot when I was in high school. People would be saying, lawn bowling, why are you doing that? And I'd say, well, I'm heading off to Hong Kong next week. So, I mean, that's kind of a perk. What are you doing next week? Writing math exams or something?
How do you think of the tens of thousands or maybe perhaps even hundreds of thousands that started out in hockey expecting to make it into the NHL?
Mm-hmm.
And if they make it through junior league without a major injury, how many of them really get into
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity to compete at that level? They just don't. All right, so Steve's set up against one down mark. He looks at it right now. He's just probably going to draw it for a second shot, I think. And he's going to try to go through that rest of Jack. Whatever, he's just going to try to get second.
Just not quite.
Just a little narrow. I think Eric is finally sitting shot when he's up to that. It's not that his front end has been bowling so badly.
No,
His front
no.
has been bowling well.
And that can sometimes be a really frustrating thing for a skip, too, to be down every time you get to the mat. That eventually just starts to wear on you.
How long can you keep it up?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets disappointing for the front end as well because they'll set it up, and if they get moved out and they're down, and then the skip can't make it, so it's got almost a snowball effect.
Okay.
Oh, did he get around it? Just about.
Ooh, not quite. He had a fair bit of weight on that. Enough to kick the jack.
I got a hunch by the end of the week these greens will be up to legitimate 12 and a half. The greenskeeper's really been working on the durability of the grass right now.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that it's going to be in for a fair stress.
Yep. Yep, it's a long week. A lot of bowls on every rink.
It is.
Pretty much.
And you can see how nice and green the surfaces are. So you know that he's been really grooming them. But the green color means it's a little bit slower than what you'd like to have it.
That's true. I know when I used to play in tournaments, and whenever I'd get to a new club, if I saw the grass was super green, I would be quite worried because it's going to be
Where's
real.
my classics?
Yeah, thick and spongy and whatnot. But when you see a nice brown green, that's when you start to lick your chops and say this could be some good bowling.
Just pushed in another one. He could be sitting 2 at this point.
Yeah, Steve just took out 2 right away. I think
Rules.
that's all he wants to say. Yeah, just 2.
Now, if they can keep this up, only another 4 ends, it'll be tie game.
That's right. That's right. And still plenty of game left after that, too. That was only on number 5, I believe.
And once again, we see him setting the mat virtually the same spot. Over in the adjacent green, you can see the mat's been moved up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I've seen it. This will be Manitoba.
Beautiful bowl there from Robbie Law as he chased his bowl down. in that rink. It's 6-3 for Ontario over Manitoba.
Does the camera get over there too?
Well, I can see a bit of it, yeah. Using this camera here, I can actually almost see the entire deck, which is kind of nice. It's gives you a bird's eye view of things going on. I can try to update a few scores that I can see around here. 5-3 for Nova Scotia over Ontario in the men's triples on rink 4. 4-2 Saskatchewan over BC, men's triples on rink 5. Looks like 7-0 for Alberta over Quebec on rink 3. I believe that's also men's triples.
6-3 on rink 2.
For Nova Scotia over BC, and that's women's pairs, I believe.
That's right.
And then down on rink 1, 5-3 for Manitoba over Ontario, and women's pairs as well. We'll do our best to update you on scores as we go, but I can't see anything way down on deck B or C. So you're going to have to wait till the games are done to find out the scores for that. And as always, head over to our website on bowlscanada.com and look under the championship tab for the Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships, where the results will be posted after each round. I know Dennis is sitting there in the office, and he'll have quite the task to input some 30 scores after each round.
Michael is again drawn in nicely for shot, keeping the pressure on. Patrick's got the back bowl, and he's drawing in nicely now. He's just a tad short. He's got the jacks around him.
It's interesting, I don't know if you could hear that, but Steve Ogden was asking Mike, I think it's over here now, or do you think you can get by on that hand? And Mike said, yeah, I think I can, so he's sticking to that hand. So we really sort of gave him the option of, well, do you think you can get around? Because if you do, then by all means go for it, but I'm not going to be the one to tell you.
Beautiful shot, too. Beautiful.
And he sure did. He came inside that.
Came inside, yeah. A beautiful weight. Let's see if Michael can match that ball. He's showing Michael the way, yeah. He's going to drop inside as well.
Mm-hmm.
So got the weight.
If he's got the weight, that should be shot. Just a little bit short.
It just might be.
It might almost be good enough.
Michael's ball fell over away from the jack, so it could be sitting shot right now. Again, tough to see from this angle. But
So Steve's calling other Steve to play around and
so
get to the back green, or kiss Mike's bowl over on the way by.
I would suspect that BC sitting shot if he called him in on that hand.
Probably a good thing he crashed on that bowl. I think he was making a beeline for BC shot. Big thanks to all the volunteers that are helping out here today, as I can see a couple of them replacing the water. There's quite the crew that Dave and Annie have recruited to help out this week.
Just a tremendous amount of volunteers from all of the clubs in the Victoria area, by the way. Sydney, Victoria. Look at this.
Oh, there you go. But I think he might have kissed that Nova Scotia bowl, Mike's bowl, and yeah, Nova Scotia's holding one. Great shot, but not a great result.
Yeah, the volunteers have really come forward to support Ann and Dave Matthew in this. And they've been just excellent in terms of putting out to make this a good event.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of good fundraisers, and recruitment of volunteers, training of volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And the team in the kitchen, by the way, is just unstoppable. They're great. They've just done a great job just about every event out here.
Well, there's some 180 players, and I think Annie was telling me there's 195 that have signed up for a meal plan, so that's, just short of 200 mouths that you got to feed for a full week. That's no small task.
The couple that's running the kitchen just seem to take it in their stride.
Of course, can't say thanks enough to Annie and David for putting things together to make this a go, as they're both actually competing in this event. So that's can be really difficult when if something goes wrong throughout the week that they're going to be on the green. But with all the volunteers, I'm sure someone else will be able to step up to the call. Throughout the winter, I think I had a phone call with Davey probably every week, maybe every other week at the start of the winter. But leading up to this, he was calling me almost every other day to go over this and make sure we had that and what else do you need. And so he's been a huge help to make sure this event is a success. And I can tell you from being here since Saturday, I can already tell it's going to be a huge success.
Well, he's had so much experience, and he's not afraid to contribute it back. And it's really a difficult thing to be bowling in it as well, because to bowl well, you have to kind of empty your head of all of the thoughts that would distract you. So both Ann and Dave are in that situation where they may not be able to empty their head to bowl well, but they always seem to come through.
Yeah, that's definitely a skill to be able to sort of set everything aside and just clear your head.
Certainly in the way they've given back to the bowling community, it's extremely admirable. So it's a really good example for the rest of us.
I'm not quite sure what Eric was trying to do there, as BC's holding 2 right now, and he just threw his first bowl in the ditch, so he was quite heavy. I don't know if that was just an unintentional heavy back bowl that he was trying to put in, or if he was actually looking to shake things up, because from the looks of things right now, I think BC is 1 for sure, maybe 2.
I believe it's just the 1, and I think that was, it's just the 1, if I remember correctly, before that bowl got there, before Michael's bowl got there, it was they were 1 down. Eric's lightened up on this one, and he was just getting his weight. Again, look at how tight that head is. It's just excellent. It shows the difference between club bowling, where you have to measure with a garden hose, and competition bowling, where you're down to calipers. It's a nice thing about this sport is you can participate at any level.
That's right. That's right.
It's a tremendous sport.
You can go however far you want to go.
Exactly. From an hour and a half or 2-hour game to a 6 or 7 or 8 day game.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do have to say I am looking forward to switching to less bowls next year, as I find 3-bowl triples to be just such a cluster by the time the skips get down to their last bowls.
It is.
It's almost impossible to get in because there's so much short stuff, or if you're throwing a drive, it's almost impossible to miss because you're bound to hit something.
Well, when you're down, throw heavy into the head.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're going to get something.
The other thing that people fail to appreciate about this game is that it is really age neutral as well as gender neutral. I think the youngest bowler that we have out here today is 15 years old, just turned 15 this year. Ozzie Chambers from
Ozzie, yeah. He's probably about as jet-lagged as I am, just fresh off his trip to Nova Scotia to compete in the juniors. And he had a pretty good run out there.
Good run. I believe he got a bronze in the pairs that followed the...
Yeah, the four-star pairs, that's right.
Yes. And this is only his 3rd year bowling, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a huge accomplishment for him to be able to say he got a bronze medal out at the juniors in the pairs, and then to be playing in the majors not even a week later. That's only going to add to his bowls resume.
Yeah. Well, he got the bronze in the pairs in the juniors, and I believe it was Trevor Burrell from Sydney Club that got the bronze in the singles.
And Trevor played stellar that week. I was watching him quite a bit, and he was just all over the jack with his draws. His only loss was in the semifinal.
Yeah, we get back to the adage, it's a draw game.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Trevor also got the sportsmanship award when he was out there. It's an award voted on by the juniors. They pick who's the best sport for the week, who's really exemplifies good sportsmanship, and all the juniors put their names in a hat for who they thought should get it, and Trevor came out as the clear winner. It was just a ball of energy and smiles and friendliness while he was there.
And that's a type of attitude that we want to be promoting in this sport.
Absolutely.
In our society, goes the other way from etiquette and respect. And here's one sport that still maintains that. It's really good to see. Well, Patrick's first ball was in the back. Well, it's Michael's first ball. It's in the back too, but not that far back. Just about a perfect ball. He's bowling well. He's really adapted to the green. Let's see if we can make the right adjustment here for Patrick's bowl. Tends to be a little on the high side. Called the professional side.
The professional side, that's right. That's right. I'm told there are some folks at home who are having some difficulty hearing you, so bear with me while I try to play with the mics a little bit. They said they can hear my mic loud and clear, but they can't hear yours, so I'm going to try to crank the volume a little bit. I can hear you coming in on my earphones, so I can hear you fine, but we'll see if the folks at home can hear you a little better now that I've wiggled a few chords. And
I can hear me.
Yeah, well, that's good news.
Which is something. Usually I'm deaf as a doornail. Michael's really putting the pressure on here. And he's got a back bowl to cover off. He does. Sitting shot, got the back bowl. Keeps it in good form for Steve when Steve steps up. Michael Shee's got a clear shot at it.
Can make the game so much easier when you have that confidence when you get on the mat, knowing that you're already lying shot, or your teammates set you up in a good position that you just have to do one thing to be sitting pretty.
Well, could be second shot there. Possibly. And Steve's got a nice hole to get through there. Michael Shee's line was perfect right on center line. And looks like Steve is through the hole. How's his weight?
I think he's just kissed the jack on his way through.
Touch the jack on the way through.
Just sailing through. That's not a bad spot to be, though.
He's at least Eric's at least one down at this point. And possibly two. I can't quite make out if that bowl on the right hand side beats the blue in front.
Well, that certainly helped his weight. That's just about jack high now.
Eric gave the symbol that he was 4 down. So it means the back ones are closer than the one in front. There you go. There you go.
That's a much better goal.
Oh, look at that. Draw shot clean. I got a hunch Eric is very happy with that one.
Probably. I'm sure he's probably letting out a big sigh saying, oh, finally.
It's, it's so important to have the second ball in the head. In a situation like that, and that one ball goes out, and all of a sudden you're 4 or 5 down.
Yep. That second ball in the head is key in almost every game, every end.
Like I say, if you're sitting shot, make sure you're sitting second shot.
Now that the skips have finally moved out of the way, you can actually see the head there.
Look at the line.
Yeah, all the bowls there are just lined up nicely for the most part. There's a couple stragglers, but almost all those bowls have come back to the center line.
Again, at this level, they're talking about getting 60% of your shots within a foot plus or minus of the jack in weight, but also a foot plus or minus on your line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the advantage of having a wide bowl. Being able to get around things, and particularly when everybody's right on the line. If you had a narrow bowl on this speed of green, it's just like an alley bowl.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I find it so frustrating to play against people who use those narrow bowls that you can just play right up the middle.
But you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult on weight too. If you get your weight wrong, and you're through 3 feet. Whereas if you've got a wider bowl, you're coming in at an angle, so your weight isn't quite as crucial as it is with the narrow bowl. And Eric's got a wider bowl, so it comes in quite nicely. How's his adjustment on his weight though?
Little rub on the outside to come in.
We see the importance of getting on the jack for the front end. Once it's on the jack, it's tough to get off.
Ain't that the truth? Well, that squirted things, but I don't think...
Squirted it out to the side.
I don't think that's beneficial for Nova Scotia. That looks like 1 BC.
It's a measure.
Saying a measure. He's going to come down and take a look.
And it looks like BC's got a lot in the head too there. He's got 3 in the head. If that one goes, could be an opportunity for BC to catch up on this.
Lots to work with.
I got 5 points to make up. How's things going there on green 6?
It looks like it's 9-5 for Ontario in the men's triples.
And 6-2 for
Saskatchewan over BC.
Over BC on rank 5.
And 6-3 for Nova Scotia over Ontario on rank 4. All men's triples so far.
And it looks like BC's suffering over there on
rank 3.
Oh, not BC. That's Quebec. Quebec is suffering over there.
Yeah,
against Alberta on rank 3. All right, how are we doing on this end? We got one more bowl left for
left.
Steve Ogden. He may decide not to bowl.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to be giving it away when it's that tight and it's a measure for shot. You do anything wrong here, he could be down 2 or 3.
They're
going to kick him in.
Discretion being the better part of valor. Looks like he's going to put it in his pocket. Take a practice shot.
Sometimes that can be crucial. You could, he's going to go right back up there and throw that ball to test the outside boundary marker maybe.
Well, it's tough to lose by 1 when you tried to get in and knock them in for point. So it puts a 6-point spread now between BC and Nova Scotia.
And they've just finished end number 7, so they're getting close to the halfway mark here.
Sure like the lines on the green for setting the jack.
Absolutely. That makes life so much easier. And that's an interesting, I think that's a black color or a navy blue that they used for that. So
it's a black.
That's very dark. You can only hardly see that.
I think it endures a little bit better than the white.
And
look at that. Mike starts again, just a 1.5 feet in front. First bowl. Putting the pressure on Patrick again. 1.5 feet to play with. Got a good line, but is he going to get around? Look at this. Just draws in for shot. Probably within 6 inches on his first bowl. Lovely start for Patrick. Michael staying with that hand. He's certainly not going to be light again. Oh, super bowl.
Oh, that's a great place
There's
to be.
There's back bowl. Good catcher.
And you can see they've really found the line as those 3 bowls are just hugging that center line, give or take.
Patrick's first bowl was just super. And it looks like he's going to try for two in a row here. Is he going to keep on rolling?
As long as he gets by that front one.
He's
just
just about 2 feet in front. Look at the perfect line, though. These guys are already got their line down pat.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve's switched Michael's hand.
Switched
He's got an
hands
open
there.
shot to the jack there.
Draw it
He's just
on
a
the
little
back.
wide. Terrific catchers, though.
Mm-hmm. All you need to do is make some contact on that green bowl, and the jack's coming right back.
Coming either side is
Yeah.
open for him. A little bit heavy on the shot bowl. The jack goes back.
Or you can draw it off and maybe chip it back. Trail it clean.
Is he going to make it around his first bowl? Just about. Close. It's good in horseshoes.
Yep. And hand grenades.
And small atomic bombs.
Steve's going to be looking to... I think based off of where Steve Ogden has his foot, he's just looking to get second shot here or maybe draw it cold. He's not looking for a whole lot, and Besancon's just sailing back another catcher.
Yeah, that sure makes it a little bit dangerous back there.
That's interesting. If I were BC right now, I'd probably be looking to get a back bowl or some coverage back there.
I'd be looking to cover off those three in the back.
That could be a dangerous pocket building, and I wouldn't put it past either Steve or Steve from Nova Scotia to make that shot eventually.
No, knowing that they're not afraid to throw a little bit of weight.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting hand to play. If I'm looking for a back bowl, I would have played the other hand.
He's looking to pile him in by the looks of it. He's got a good second shot in there now.
That's a pretty good spot to be. That also can be used as a rester for Besancon as he comes down now, though. If he's just looking to draw a shot or second shot.
It looks to me just to be a tad tight. Is he going to get by? Well,
So it's 3 for BC right now in the head, but
that one off to the side, though, is just as much an enemy as it is a friend. Nova Scotia comes, just gets an inside chip on it. You get knocked shot bowl out, sit point.
based off where Eric was standing there, I think he's looking to replace that bowl that's just kind of a short guard.
That's what he's doing.
It's definitely not the strategy I would be playing here right now. The way those angles are lined up, I would be looking to change the head up a little bit because there's so many options here for Besancon coming down now.
I got a hunch we're going to see a little bit of a weighted shot.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't expect him to be short on this.
No, sir. And I think he's going after... Oh, well, that was good and bad.
A well-placed guard, I suppose, but...
Well, he knocked himself in for a second shot, by the looks of it.
We'll see if Eric's calling for another guard to replace that or not.
Quite often guards aren't called for at this level of play, but...
Especially this early in the end, too, when the skips still haven't even got to the mat yet. That's very early in the end to be calling for guards.
Yeah.
There's still a whole lot that can happen with 3 bowls each for the skips to come.
I would think with being 6 points down, he'd be...
Looking to get a few points and be a little more aggressive into it.
Exactly.
But, sometimes that can be enough to confuse your opponent, throw him for a loop, thinking, what on earth are you doing, and why are you doing that? And it can get into your head.
Either that or Eric's confident that he can get around that guard.
That too. If he's got wide enough bowls, it might not affect him the way it could affect Steve.
Do you know what bowl Steve's bowling, by the chance?
I actually have no idea what bowls Mr. Ogden is using.
What about Steve Besancon?
He has a wide array of bowls that he uses. He's got different ones for different greens. I wouldn't be surprised if he brought 2 or 3 sets with him here. The sets that he's using right now, I can't remember what. I'm pretty sure they're a Henselite, and I can't remember which kind they are. Might be a Tiger or a Tiger 2.
Could be. Well, that last bowl of Steve's, his first bowl pushed push Michael Shea's ball in for second shot. And Eric has bowled this one tight.
Quite tight.
I think just getting used to the speed for Eric. The greens over in Vancouver have been quite a bit faster than what he's experiencing here.
Do you know what club in Vancouver Eric's from?
Pardon me?
Do you know what club Eric's used to playing out of over in Vancouver?
I thought it was New Westminster,
New Westminster? Okay.
but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, I know when I was talking to Davey earlier on in the year, he said that he was ideally going to keep them around 12 seconds, maybe 13 at most, because once they get up to 14 or 15, they start to get really squirrely, and the runs and the lines come out, and it just gets really difficult to play on. But if you keep them down around 12 or 13, they're...
The greens up Island, on Vancouver Island, have been excellent. Up in Qualicum and Port Alberni, they've been up running upwards of 14 and a half.
Oh, goodness.
Very challenging to play on after bowling in 12. Well, it could be that BC's sitting 3 shots now.
But that looks like a big fat target that you can make contact on a green bowl to...
It is. The only thing, there's no more bowls left for Nova Scotia.
That's right. So here's a big chance
So
here
here's your big gimme
for Eric.
This could be this could change the momentum a little bit.
If they could pick up a 3 or a 4 here, that would really put them back in this game.
And Eric looks like he's up here. It looks like a good shot coming in. It is.
Made a good correction off his last. That's a great bowl.
Good weight. I don't know if he's close enough. No, I don't believe he is. The weight was perfect.
1, 2, 3, says Steve. Let me take a look. He was ready to pick out the other blue one at first, but
yeah,
hindsight, he's not so sure.
And he's going to force a measure.
Yeah.
Call for a measure on that. It's really nice to see at this level that the protocol of removing a bowl from the head is observed, identifying that the points are given, not taken.
Right. Right.
So often at the club level, you see people taking their own bowls out of the head.
And
It just shouldn't be done.
That's something you need to teach them at an earlier stage, saying, you don't take your own bowls out, you take out your opponents if you're giving them shots. But
it underscores the necessity to be practicing the good techniques right from day one. You can start getting a little lax at club level sometimes, and when you get into competitions like this, you can't have those indiscretions. So
I remember a few years ago when I was still part of the national squad that our then coach had this line saying, if you want to soar with the eagles, don't fly with the turkeys.
That's right.
Which
That's
sparked quite a bit of controversy here in Canada, as a lot of members like to, they still help out at the club and they volunteer and they run tournaments and they want to, support everything they can. So they'll still play in league nights or those odd jitneys, and caused quite an uproar from some of the players. But it's
That's right.
He's not entirely wrong though. If you really do want to soar with the eagles, then you got to be up there with them.
Sometimes people can be pretty sensitive. It would do us well to have a little bit thicker skin and a softer heart. Almost threw the wrong ball. Either that or he was bowling his 2 wood when he should have been bowling his 1.
Save that one for later.
That's right. Oh, Michael is right on with his first bowl.
Ping,
First
ping,
bowl.
ping.
That's the importance of that first bowl. If you can be on your first bowl, get on the jack. Really sets the tone for the rest of the
Does
of the end.
Does it ever?
And then making the right adjustment. I often say this is a game of adjustment, not of accuracy. If you make the right adjustment, quicker, you'll be on the jack sooner.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
And now when you've thrown a good bowl, first bowl like that, what do you do for encores? Well, you put a second one on there. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. He's not a mile away.
That is super. Very usable bowl. Probably within a foot in front of the jack.
That's a pretty good caterpillar drill, if anybody knows what that is, where you just try to replicate the same bowl over and over and get all 4 bowls to look sort of like a caterpillar.
I bowled with a fellow in the U.S. who's dead now. He's in the U.S. Lawn Bowling Hall of Fame, and his favorite expression was just pile him in.
Just pile him in.
Pile him in.
I use that expression quite a bit when I play too. Just pile him in, put the pressure on, get him in there.
Yeah. And when you got him in a nice line like that, like look at Mike's line.
That's not a very big target. That's just a 1 bowl target right now.
It's a one exactly. He's got 3 bowls all in the line. Perfect line. 1 on the jack, 1 a foot in front, and 1 a foot behind. That's what you call a good lead.
Absolutely.
It's so important in this game, a good lead.
I used to, I wouldn't say not believe it, but I used to always wanted to play vice or skip when I was growing up, just because I thought you could have a bigger impact. But once I got on the national squad and played in 3 bowl pairs, I think is when it really clued in to me how much of an impact a lead can make. That if your lead is out bowling the other lead, then chances are you're winning the game just based off that fact alone.
That's right. We underestimate the value of a lead, I believe, in introducing people to bowls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you should graduate to the position of being a good lead.
Yep.
If you can be a good lead, you can be a good singles player. You can be a good skip.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a good skip without being a good lead or singles player. You just have to be able to throw heavy into the head.
Yeah, really. Well, that's one thing that we've actually been working on, trying to change, is that there are so many clubs that we've seen in Canada where when you first start bowling, you're stuck at lead for 5 or 10 years and you don't even get to experience playing vice or skip, and that's one thing that we're trying to move away from and encourage clubs. You know, you shouldn't really just be sticking someone at lead for the first 5 to 10 years. That doesn't help them develop as a player at all.
That's right. You know, you can start them as lead, but start them as a B-level lead, advance them to a B-level skip, then advance them to an A-level skip, and then the apex of that progression be the A-level lead. And once you're an accomplished A-level lead, you can bowl in just about any position.
That's right.
But then we do a disservice by putting an A-level lead playing skip. Like Steve is in there with a beautiful shot, just drew right in. He drew second shot right between Mike's first and second shot. Except this made a nice target. We're going to see some jack movement here.
Yep,
there it goes. Freeze
right
it up. Freeze it up, and that back bowl that Patrick put in right off at the start, I think, is probably in the count now. Now, what was that sign? Did you see the sign that Steve gave?
Thought he tapped his leg,
says he's sitting
looking.
2.
He's looking.
Says he's sitting 2. Well, that was down from 4.
So based off the camera there, yeah, it looks like those 2 sort of shorter bowls are
2 in the front.
The 2 in the front are the counters.
Let's see if Steve makes the right adjustment here. He's almost identical bowl to the previous one.
Ogden's taking a closer look now to see if he is in fact 2. He's using his fingers.
Well, he looks pretty happy. He's walking away with a bit of a confidence on him. At least Eric can see the bowl this time. He can see the jack.
That's right.
So he's got something to draw to. See if he can get it wide enough. He's been struggling with his line a little bit.
Sometimes that can be one of the toughest parts about being a skip, is you don't often get a wide open jack like this that you need to draw to. Quite often you're looking to push a bowl or make some contact or trail the jack perfectly or what have you. So it might not be till halfway through the game before you actually get a chance to just draw the jack.
And then when you do get that chance, coming back from throwing heavy is a little bit of a challenge.
That's right. You can hear Pazanson calling in Og.
And he's doing well, too. Steve's
he
got
is
just
there.
about perfect weight.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Look at
shot
that.
there. So that could be 3 for Nova Scotia right now, if Ogden's fingers are right.
It's great to see a Skip being able to draw with that precision too. First bowl right off the bat. It wasn't a matter of adjustment or reading the green. It was a matter of putting it on first shot. So his memory of the green, how it performs, was just about right on. And if he can do it twice in a row, call it skill.
We saw that Mike, the Nova Scotia lead, did 2 almost identical bowls to start off, and we'll see if Ogden's coming up quite short on that. He had a good line, but
okay, here let's see if Eric can make the right adjustment now. He was narrow and heavy on the first one. See if he can bring it onto the jack.
he's still heavy, but
It's almost identical bowl to the first one.
yeah, almost similar.
So it was perfect except for the adjustment.
I wonder if that's what he's trying to do, though, is bring the jack back with him, because he could be sitting 3 or 4 if he gets it.
And that could be too. It's well set up. What is Steve going to do on this? Looks like he's going to draw in for second shot.
Yep.
That was an excellent adjustment.
That makes
Behind
for
the jack,
a bit of
slightly behind.
a good call there for Nova Scotia. Sit 2 and I think maybe 4 if the measure's right.
That could be. That hurt.
I haven't said it yet this game, but as is my custom whenever we're streaming, I have to give a big thanks to our sponsors and supporters, the Government of Canada through Sport Canada, the Coaching Association of Canada, as they help us with all our coaching needs, Kukri, our official clothing supplier, and of course new this year we have lawnbowlingmanager.com. Have you heard of that?
No.
Alright, so lawnbowlingmanager.com is a neat little website function put together by Bona Lee. She started with curlingmanager.com, and it's sort of a one-stop shop for curling clubs to have a website, a club database, mailing list. You can have leagues and tournaments and standings and whatnot on there too. So it's quite the multifunctional online service. So someone approached her and said, "Why don't you do this for lawn bowling clubs? It'd be almost the same as what you have for curling clubs." She said, "You know what? That actually wouldn't be very hard to switch around." So she did, and now she's looking to see how many clubs in Canada could make use of her.
That's terrific.
Lawnbowlingmanager.com. It's quite the useful function. She gave me a 2-hour demo of it, and I think my favorite part was how you can have different people running different pages. So if you want one person to run it all, they can, but you can designate certain areas. So if you have a games coordinator, they can run the tournament page or the league night page and update the standings and scores and whatnot. But you can also have your club administrator run the database, so you can have an online record of all your members, their addresses, whether they've paid their dues or not.
A lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah.
Is you can delegate and share the burden, share the load.
So I thought that was quite the useful function, and so she approached us, seeing if we could help her out and get a few more clubs to sign up. So I really hope that clubs across Canada will at least call her for a demo and take a look through and see all the things that she has to offer, because it's quite neat.
That'd be excellent in this area with the propensity of clubs that we have. Just the ability to get the results of tournaments very quickly, as opposed to having to go to somebody's personal Facebook, because it's so easy to put information on a Facebook.
Right, yep.
But if you've got another avenue that you can pursue that everybody knows of and that everybody can access, even if they don't have Facebook.
Yep, that's right.
And you don't rely on one person to do it all.
That's another big kicker, is that how often do you have just 1 or 2 volunteers at a club that are wearing 17 hats and doing it all, to be able to share the load a little bit.
And astute in computer work.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's going to change with a lot of the younger bowlers that we have now.
Yeah, a lot of it will just be second nature to them.
Well, this is unusual. We've got 3 bowls. First 3 bowls, and they're all 4 feet short, 4 or 5 feet short. I don't think we've seen it on this end yet.
No, I don't think so.
This game.
But this might be one of the shorter jacks that they've been playing. Not a whole lot shorter, but maybe a couple feet.
We've got one bowl behind.
There we go. I think I got some audio back here now.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, we got it.
Sorry about that. We had one of the bowlers was walking through and tripped over the wire. We do have a mat there covering up the wires, but I guess it's not making a whole lot of difference. People are still finding a way to kick over them anyway.
We could probably use 2 of the mats up there.
While we've been jiggling cables and fixing things left, right, and center, looking here, we finally have a close pull from Nova Scotia in the head, just behind. So 1 Nova Scotia in the head right now.
And we've got quite a spread on this game.
This is definitely the loosest end that we've seen them play.
Michael draws in shot bowl.
Great bowl there from Michael.
Get a 7-point spread in the game though, so it's they're going to need everything they can get. 7 ends to go. Still lots of time, lots of bowls to come.
Next door, it's 11-6 for Ontario over Manitoba, men's triples. Rink over there, it's 12-5 Saskatchewan over BC. 9-4 for Nova Scotia over Ontario.
Oh, Steve Bezanson just had a tough shot there. Took his own bowl out, leaving BC sitting 2. And Michael gets a chance to put it in again. Really solid bowler. I recall him all too well in the triples game I played against him. And it looks like Quebec is suffering over there against Alberta.
Alberta is really putting the pressure on there. I think that's what, 17-0.
Yeah.
For Alberta. That's a pretty strong team, though. They won the triples in 2015, I believe, down in Willowdale.
The same team?
The same team, that's right, of Paul, Roy, and Keith.
It just shows the importance of the chemistry in the team.
I'm starting to get to know that team a little bit better. Last year the majors were in Edmonton, so I got to talk to them there, and Keith is their vice, and he's actually the one that does the scoring site for our website. So
super.
He's the one who designs that, and I've been working with him all spring and summer to make sure that we get everything coded perfectly, which takes a fair bit of time to get all the team names and rink numbers and everything assigned perfectly, which I know when I posted the majors draw, all mayhem broke loose because I hadn't substituted out team number 4, which was New Brunswick, but since they only have pairs teams, the triples and fours spares there's a Nova Scotia B in triples and a Alberta B in fours, so it showed New Brunswick still, so I got probably 27 emails saying, hey, the draw's wrong, it shows New Brunswick's playing fours, so quite a bit of coding in the background to
there's got to be
get everything perfect.
People don't see the underlying work. Just, the adage is just like an iceberg.
That's right.
What you see above is only 10% of what the entirety of it is. All the perspiration that comes behind the inspiration.
That's definitely not the result that Ogden was looking for, as he pushed in another one for BC.
Another from BC.
So they could be holding, how many do you think there? 3?
Could be could be 4 actually.
It's really difficult to tell how many when the bowl is 4 feet away. It's tough to tell.
And that one's drawn in. He's got, this is his last bowl, and it looks like he could be down 4
Definitely
or 5.
another in the head. If I'm Eric from BC, I'm definitely looking to pick that Nova Scotia bowl.
I think the closest Nova Scotia bowl is the one in the back here.
Yeah, the one in the back corner, but that's worth
So
a handful.
That could be 5 or 6 actually.
Maybe even 7. You could almost get a perfect end if he pushes that out and stays.
I think you're right.
So Ogden will definitely be looking to get something else in the head there. There's no way I'd be throwing weight at that or looking to move the jack or anything.
Well, certainly the idea here is to cut him down.
Yep.
At a 7-ender would put us into a tie game.
Yeah, that's right. Although I don't know if you can see it from the map, but if Ogden can move the jack back, he could also pick up a 7 himself.
That's right. He's got all the back bowls.
Mm-hmm. That's difficult here. We'll see what he does. I would assume he's going to play a little more conservative and just look to draw to cut them down. With a 7-point lead, there's no need to be greedy yet.
That's right. What size are you going to come in on?
Yeah, that can be the tricky thing because you don't want to crash and burn short.
Or sail through.
Mm-hmm. And I think he's
which is
just
often
around.
the problem.
Just around.
I think we might have a tie game.
One yet left to come here
One
for
more
Eric.
to come.
And I don't know if he's holding all of those shots yet. He could be, but it's tough to tell from this angle.
I believe that what I see there looks to me at least 6. The bowl in question would be Michael Shea's bowl up in the.
And that's exactly what he's looking to do now, is just draw and rest it out. Only needs a
That's
couple
right.
rolls.
That's right. Looks like he's going to try to come around Michael's bowl, or if nothing else, even push Michael in a little further.
Yeah, that's right. You definitely don't need to be shy here. You've got lots of options as long as you're there.
Push comes to shove, he could even knock Nova Scotia's bowl out in the back and sit 8.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And here he comes. That looks way inside to me.
He looks like he is tight.
But that might still get in the count anyway.
He's going to be in the count by the looks of it. Oh.
That is a big end for BC to get them right back in this game.
I don't think Nova Scotia wanted to go down that big.
Nope.
At any time. But at this point in the game, it's tough to do.
2. And I think he's just going to say measure that bowl and we'll go around.
I think I'd be inclined to wedge that bowl. But
I probably would be too. Now, are you partial to string measures or those metal ones?
I like the metal ones myself. String measure just tends to be a little bit too variable.
So it's 3, 4, and he snapped back the measure and has to go back to redo it.
I don't know if you've seen the measures with the little arm that swings on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Which is developed by a man named Larry Brohammer out of Sun City, a machinist. He's dead now. But he invented quite a few things for lawn bowling. It was one of the things we use quite a bit in Arizona. Yeah, it looks like we've got a 7-ender here.
Yeah, 7.
7.
All tied up.
I enjoy the hand signals which a lot of the Chinese use to identify the count, where they go right up to 9 points on one hand.
Very unique. I actually had the opportunity to play over in Hong Kong and China several years back, and I found it very refreshing to see how they play the game over there. We played in, I guess it would have been just out of a club jitney or something like that. Played against a local
Were you there in
team in China.
in Tiger Bowls?
Yeah. So we showed up a little early and Anthony and Shirley Ko set us up with a couple of local teams in China to play, and they use for measures basically just sort of like a normal tape measure that you would have inches and centimeters on it, and they just hold it over top of the jack, and it's 3 feet and 7 inches away, and do that. And then after the halfway point of the game, they call everybody off and ring the tea bell, and it's tea time. So they brought out tea and biscuits, and you have sort of a mid-game snack and socialize with the other team, and then after everybody's had a biscuit, you go right back out and finish the game, which
Very civilized.
I thought
Very
that was a very civilized way to play. That was very social.
I was in Tiger Bowls in 2016 and found that many of the people that were bowling on the Hong Kong team were from Vancouver.
It's quite the event if you ever get the chance to go to. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So we're all tied up at 15 here with 6 ends to go.
Yeah, it's anybody's game now.
Mhm.
That 1-7 ender could have been the tide changer here.
Could have been. Also could have put this game to bed if Steve Ogden would have trailed it back and got 6 or 7 for Nova Scotia too. That would have been quite the swing the other way as well. So 7 up,
That's
7
right.
down.
Yep.
Whoever gets the first 7 is off to the races.
You see over there in the pairs, Nova Scotia is up on BC by 15-11 on the 11th end.
Mm-hmm.
That's Gary Manns going down through his last bowl. And I believe he's bowling with Kenyon Lau.
Yeah, Keenan. And I don't know if that's women's
And
triples or fours next door. I think that might be triples.
that'll be Terry, and who's bowling with Terry against BC? Terry O'Neill and
Oh, and the pairs. Is that Doug?
that's Doug McLean.
Doug McLean, yeah.
McLaren.
McLaren, yeah. Looking next door, though, for the women's match, I can see the score is 14-6, but name tags have fallen off, so I think it might be Quebec that's up 14-6 over Alberta. Women's triples.
Looks like. And back on the triples over here, Patrick just drew shot. Nice bowl. And he looks like he's got the jump on Michael on this end. It's interesting how you can have one end where you're right on all the time, and the next end you're struggling a bit.
Mm-hmm. Frustrating is probably a good word for that you can be so good one end and...
Well, it illustrates the importance of keeping your head in the game, regardless of your position. You got to be concentrating, but not to the point of distraction.
Mm-hmm.
You go into like a hyper focus when you're on the mat, but still stay in the game when you're off the mat. And Michael just put his second bowl, or his first bowl in there for second shot. Still sitting 2. This that last 7 ender could put Nova Scotia just a little bit on edge.
I think you might be right about that. And that can be a real challenge sometimes to come over that. It's a bit of a psychological issue that you need to learn to overcome and just forget it, put it in the past.
Yeah.
Not let it affect your bowls.
Which is
forward.
really tough to do. It shows you the importance of the head game.
Mm-hmm.
The head game being keeping that focus in your own mind, not trying to get into the other person's head, but bringing yourself back up to your optimum performance. Just even appreciating it. I've practiced this. I can do this. Let's look at this as just a practice, and just do it like I would. Steve just made a lovely shot, taking the jack back and freed it up. Boy, he needed that at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He's now sitting 2. He's got both back bowls. Could even be 3 by the looks of it. But it's open for Michael, and he's really good on his draw. He's been drawing really well. He's got a good one coming in here. He's picked it back up again.
That looks like a beautiful shot there.
What
That's
an
number
adjustment.
1.
Look at that.
That's number 1.
Super adjustment. He was obviously very relieved to do that. You can tell from his focus he was there, though. Now, who is Manitoba playing against here over on
D deck? They're playing against Ontario,
rank 1.
The Steffen brothers from Ontario, and
They're
Ontario's up 12-3.
Playing the Duzablon, that's father and son.
Yeah, Kevin and Leo.
That's Leo and Kevin, I believe, isn't it?
Yep. And that's a good strike there from Steve Bezanson in front of us. He just drove off.
Wow. 2 beautiful bowls for Steve. 2 beautiful bowls. Pressure's back on Eric.
Mm-hmm. Although it is a relatively wide open jack to draw to. It's getting pretty close to that borderline, though.
It is, so he's going to have to go out into no man's land there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's perhaps a portion of the jungle that he hasn't explored yet. Could be where all the lions and the tigers are. See if he can get his green. It looks pretty good from this point.
It does. It's all in the
it's
weight
all in his
here.
weight.
I think he might be a little quick.
And he might not be in. He's not.
Yeah, just a little too quick.
Little too quick, little too high. Once again, you're out in unknown territory.
Mm-hmm.
2 more bowls to make the right adjustment. I'll see if
Steve Ogden here can...
If Steve Ogden can make the right call on that.
You can definitely afford to be a little inside there. You don't necessarily need to be out on the out-of-bounds next rink over.
No. At this point in time, it's a garden hose measurement, so...
There's a fair bit of space to draw. There is, I believe, a toucher in the ditch, but it's far enough away that could be shot itself right there.
The toucher in the ditch. Oh, I think this is a better adjustment.
That's a much better line.
Much better bowl. Look at that.
And that's a beautiful shot.
Super shot. Very nice adjustment by Eric Leung.
The way that's lined up, I'm not sure if that'll go dead or not if you make connection on that. It might.
Well, is he going to try to draw it or drive it?
I feel like that could be a drive.
I'd be inclined to just draw in and make sure they don't get more than one here.
Mm-hmm. Eric's just looking to get another shot in there, I would think. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to be a little off, though, leave some separation so there's a gap so you can't double those out.
I could be inclined to just drop it just behind if I could. He's come a tad tight.
If he makes contact on that, that's not what you're looking for. Not quite enough to move it.
Well, it's close to the ditch, but I don't think if that gets hit, I don't think it's going to go towards Eric's last bowl. And I guess he's got nothing to lose at this point in time. It's only one, so he's going to go for it.
Looking to kill it, but I think he's tight. Yeah, just sailing around.
1. Well, we have BC in the unusual portion of this game of being in the lead.
That's the first time they've...
First time in this game.
On top, yeah.
And it looks like BC has made a substantial move over on green 2 as well in the pairs. They've jumped ahead 16-15 on the 12th end.
Yeah, as we were just talking about that men's pairs game, Terry O'Neill.
Rink 2, which we can't see on the camera. Now, if BC team can keep their head in the game, just keep pushing, you're going to make a game of it.
Starting in number 12 here.
It looks to me like it's Matt in the same place and Jack in the same place. I got a hunch this is a well-practiced length.
I would assume so.
Position.
I would assume so.
I expect the first bowl to be pretty close. I'm surprised that we haven't seen Nova Scotia dramatically change the mat and the jack length.
Mm-hmm.
They've been falling into the trap of playing the same length. There's Mr. Roth from Ontario. A whole family of the Roths are out this year.
That's right. That's right. They're all here.
Tom, Lori, Sue, and Jem.
Friends of yours from down in Arizona, I would assume, would be
Yes, we bowl with them quite a bit. All very accomplished bowlers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great people to bowl with, too. Well, surprisingly enough, Patrick wasn't on the jack on his first bowl.
No, his first bowl wasn't
And
quite as close as he was hoping for, but it's a pretty good adjustment here.
Excellent adjustment, but he changed hands, too. So obviously he didn't like the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael gets a chance to get in there. And he thinks he's coming up short. And
seems like coming this way, they're starting to put looser ends together, which makes me wonder if the green speed is changing a little bit and it's just enough to affect everyone.
That could be. If he gets by Michael's bowl, it's a good shot.
Oh, it fell down
Michael's
just in
bowl
time.
Just fell over just in time to let Patrick's bowl through. Perfect draw. Toucher on his second shot. Had that bowl not fallen over, it wouldn't have got there. BC's really putting the pressure on now. It's funny how just that one big end, put you back in the game.
Gives you the confidence that you need to start rolling well.
You see that happen so often. You know, one team will master the front end of the game, and the other team will master the last end of the game, last half of the game.
That's why I really like what they do in Australia. Is a lot of times they'll play 25 end games or 21 end games, and it really lets you watch the tide sort of ebb and flow of who's carrying over the first 6 ends, and then who really picks it up in the next 6, and then who picks it up for the last half of the game. It's really interesting to watch, to see the
dynamics,
the course of the game go back and forth.
Where have you bowled in Australia?
I've only ever been to the Gold Coast, so that's down at Fester's neck of the wood at Broadbeach, where they'll be playing the Commonwealth Games and World Championships the year after that.
Wow.
Beautiful facility down there with 4 decks as well. And
now, is that Ryan Bester's club?
Yes. Yeah, he's the bowls coordinator down there and does a great job. As soon as you walk in the door, there's a huge picture of his face that you can throw darts at on your way by.
I think the dream of many young bowlers is to be playing bowls for a living.
Yeah.
And take you after Ryan Bester. Have to put in lots of practice.
Oh yeah, do you ever? It's interesting to watch. When I was there, I went down a week early, and he is the bowls coordinator, so he's wearing his uniform for the morning, but then in the afternoon he'll switch down into shorts and a t-shirt and go out and practice for an hour, and then back to the uniform for the last 2 hours of a shift.
Tough way to make a living.
Yeah, it must be. It must be.
Look at this. BC's sitting 2 points here right now.
Quite the gap there. I'm wondering if you can use that side BC bowl as a wing to get in there just behind, make your second shot closer.
Well, that last bowl of Michael's is going to be Steve's friend if he can just slide off of it.
He's coming in way tight on this.
He's coming in tight.
Pushing in another. That's 3 BC points now, I think. If that's enough. Might have needed another roll.
Pushed it in for a measure anyway. Well, the idea at this point in the game is not to let it get in your head. Not to look at it as a defeat, or to look at it as an opportunity. Eric's in the enviable position of a sitting shot again when he's up on the mat. He's got back bowls, he's got shot, he's got second shot.
Can't ask for too much more.
And he's got a nice bowl coming in here. It's all in his weight. Look at that. Lovely bowl. Second shot. But it sure makes a pretty wide jack. All he has to do is slide off of either one of those bowls and he's got it.
It's a pretty big target now. I'm sure that's not where he wanted to be.
Exactly. And it looks like he's got something here.
Outside edge and across. That's probably good for second shot.
He's got second shot.
Yeah. I would have to think he might be playing a little aggressively into that. Just push the purple on. Roll that bowl a touch.
I believe he's here, that's for sure. He doesn't want to have any much jack movement though.
He's tight as well.
No, he's not. He's light.
Short. Yeah.
And Nova Scotia still has a shot at it. That bowl comes off. If he can pick it clean, just catch the edge of it, knock it back, be sitting 2.
Definitely not short, but I think he's got that outside edge again.
Oh dear.
That's a very unfortunate result.
That did not work out the way he wanted it to.
He has one left, so now I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be a little more aggressive into that.
He's got the back bowl.
But if you're BC, what are you doing here? Are you just looking to cover your bases?
BC, I think he should just be, putting the back bowl in. Covering off the back.
Yeah, leaving well enough alone.
Oh, he's not there. He's not there.
Zansen's calling for some kind of weight into there.
It's going to be tough to take 2 of them out, but he's...
Just need to make contact. But from the way that's lined up, I think there might be a chance that might squirt forward, to be honest. Depending on what kind of weight you play into that.
Well, it's unlikely he's going to take both of his thirds out, so he's got nothing to lose. He's got the steam. He's got something here.
Yeah, squirted forward a little bit.
Yeah, didn't change it.
Still down 2.
Still down 2.
I don't know if they brought that third one in by moving the jack forward. He's kicked out 2 and they're taking a look.
So from a... What was it at? It was 14-6. It's now 16, 17, 15. That 7-ender sure helped in the comeback.
Yeah, you can say that again.
You don't see big ends like that too often at this level.
Not often, no. I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if that's the biggest end we're going to see here this week. I wouldn't expect to see much higher.
Bigger than that.
Very rarely would I expect to see a perfect end happening at an event like this. So that was 2 for sure. I don't know if that measure brought it into account. I don't think so. So that would make it 18-15 then.
19.
Oh, so it did come in then.
19-15. Big comeback for Eric Leong, Patrick, and Michael.
12 ends played, 4 to go.
We see a couple games with some pretty big discrepancies.
And that's one thing that is interesting here now, since all the tiebreakers are played on the greens. You might think that the plus-minus doesn't matter as much anymore, but it does when there's more than 2 teams tied, because they go to plus-minus to rank the teams for when they go into the tiebreaker matches. So if there's 3 teams tied, they still get ranked 1, 2, 3 to go into the tiebreaker matches. So that's where the plus-minus counts.
Makes a difference. Patrick put his first bowl right on the jack, just behind. Lovely start. And Michael's struggling.
Yeah, he is struggling here. It can be tough to stay consistent for a full 16 ends.
Well, particularly when you've had a couple or 3 ends that have changed the tide of the game.
Also different, I think they've brought the mat up a little bit here this end. A few paces.
Look at this, another beautiful bowl. Look at that.
Great opening bowls there.
2 bowls probably within
an inch. 2 inches?
Within half a foot of each other.
I would definitely be looking to change up some angles here with my last bowl. Maybe try to bury the jack or roll a bowl back behind. Because that looks like a pretty wide target
If
right
he
now.
just pushes it through. He just has to line up those bowls a little bit so they don't make quite as big a target.
Mm-hmm. And he's just outside there. Ogden's just calling for him to draw through. You don't need a whole lot of weight into that.
He's got a pretty good line on this. He's going to get something.
Got one bowl out.
One of them out. But that gives BC a back bowl now, which is always good.
I think he's just looking to rest Mike's last bowl there.
We learned very quickly not to complain about back bowls.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And Michael pulls in a second shot. And nice line.
That is one thing that some curlers probably struggle with when they first try this for the first game, is that guards are not your go-to anymore.
That's the challenge with coming from a curling background, where the guards are usually placed first.
Definitely not the case here.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's definitely not what you were hoping for, but it ended up in a relatively good spot, the one he chipped over.
You know, it seems that when things go wrong, they always go wrong, right?
Yep.
Just shows that Murphy's alive and well. Well, he certainly didn't make a target with that one.
Nope.
And he's not very pleased with that bowl.
Understandably so. You can see he's using a towel to clean off his bowl there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little damp, as probably wants it to be a little wet. Do you use a towel to wet your fingers when you're bowling?
And Steve makes a good shot.
Good result there.
Needed that one.
Did he ever? That might have been a sort of a frustration shot, just to get it out of your system.
Just to vent it. Yep. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out of your system. Yeah. It seems like both Michaels are struggling on this end. Michael Shea and Michael Hadley.
Mm-hmm. Steve's looking to draw around, and he's done that.
And he's done that. He's got a good second shot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Two in the head. I don't know if it's second shot, but it's certainly in the head. Got two bowls in the head.
I don't think it's good enough for second, but it's not a bad place to be, though.
Well, Eric's got a comfortable lead in the game, but there's still lots of bowls to come.
That's for sure. It's always amusing to me to see how high these scores can really get. Most of the tournaments back in Ontario are only 12 ends, 14 ends, something like that, and so scores don't get much past 18. Here, though, when you're playing 16 ends, 18 ends.
Look at this. Perfect bowl.
Great shot there from Eric.
Perfect bowl.
Scores can get quite high here, looking around the rinks.
You know, when I first started bowling, all of the games, even at the club level, were in the 16 and 18 ends.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think there are any tournaments that I've played in back in Ontario that are like that.
And once again, I think we do the tournament bowlers a disservice by cutting down on the length of the games during competitions. I think every competition should be up to the standard, or the lengths anyway, that we'd play at the nationals or the provincial level.
It's more preparation, gets them ready for it.
It lets the potential competitors see what it's going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
and then it prepares them for it. There's, there is the need for social bowls. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there also has to be. It cannot be done at the loss of the opportunities for the competitive bowlers. You got to be able to make opportunities for the competitive people to practice so that they can bowl at this level
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at someday.
That is part of the reason why some of the changes are going to be coming next year, is to try to reflect a little more what happens on the international stage, with 3-bowl pairs being the norm rather than the typical 4-bowl pairs that you see in Canada. It's surprising how few people have actually played 3-bowl pairs. And so if you're competing in Canada and looking to be in the national squad, it's kind of difficult to say, you're great here in Canada playing 4-bowl pairs, now we're going to take a bowl away from you and send you overseas. Good luck.
Well, we should have a goal that we're aspiring towards, and for bowling, it should be what is being done on the international scene.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're bowling 3-bowl pairs on the international scene, that's what we should be aspiring to do.
Yeah.
If we want to have that credibility when we get out there.
Absolutely.
And if you've never bowled it before,
Yeah.
if you're counting on your 4th bowl.
Yeah, exactly. You're used to making that 4th adjustment.
This doesn't work.
Just thinking about this a lot. This could be a very crucial.
This could be a crucial shot, and he's
here.
tight. Oh, look at that.
Well, that's quite the result.
Whoa.
That is quite the result. Dead end.
Sometimes in this game, we're blessed beyond what we deserve.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes it pays to be lucky.
It's just like life. Sometimes things have to happen to show you that you're not as much in charge of the outcome as you think you are.
I've heard many different opinions about using the respot and not using the respot, and in this case, this is the last year that you can still kill ends, and I'm sure that a lot of the players here certainly appreciate that. I know that Steve Ogden probably does in his crew right now in that situation, but it certainly changes the strategy to the game when you do have the respot rule in effect, is you have to really prepare for getting that tee covered.
It changes the nature of the game, that's for sure. And perhaps it even makes it a little bit more skillful, because you have to at least dedicate one of your bowls to covering the tee.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a level of skill all of its own as well, because it doesn't matter where the jack is set, you can still burn it. And if you've got the tee covered, you're going to come out ahead.
I've seen many different players bring the mat right up and then put the jack at the tee, as it kind of almost really changes that strategy, because then if you do end up throwing a drive and killing it, it's just going right back to where it was in the first place. So I've seen a lot of players put the jack on the tee more so when they're playing respot as opposed to non-respot.
I played a game of 4s down in Arizona where the team was well rehearsed at bringing the mat right up to the hog line,
Mm-hmm.
placing the jack on the tee, having all of the team put in back bowls. The skip would step to the head, and with his first bowl, he'd drive the jack into the ditch. Sit 7 because everybody had come up short.
Mm-hmm.
This one time, that same thing transpired, except when he hit the jack, he hit it so hard that it sprung off the backboard, bunched out about 20 feet, and he was down 6. So we got a tough start for both leads in this end.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to make the adjustment first?
Well, it looks like a better line, but I'm not sure about the weight.
Line was excellent. If you count the bias, he got 2 out of 3. And looks like Michael's bowl is going to be a little closer than any of them so far. That was much better
shot.
adjustment.
You still have that mat up about, what do you say, that's not quite halfway between the ditch and the hog line? Not quite.
Not quite. Here's a good adjustment coming in now.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Like I say, it's a game of adjustment.
Last couple ends I've noticed that his first two have been not as close as he'd like, but his third one, he certainly knows how to adjust by the time he gets the third one.
And Michael is still struggling. Last bowl.
Eric calling for him to play inside and come up a little bit short. That's a very unique strategy.
It's interesting. Michael Shee's coming in on that same side. He's going to drop inside of Michael Hadley's bowl to sit Jack. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great shot.
Beautiful
there.
shot. Well, certainly BC is coming into their own right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're really getting their focus and getting their act together.
Now is definitely a good time to be peaking at this stage in the game.
Ooh. Ah, yes. One of those fortuitous wicks.
Yes, yes. Seems like Nova Scotia is starting to really find some good edges the last two ones here.
No use pussyfooting. I just make sure you're up.
Yep, gotta be up to let something happen.
And Michael's just put
like
another one back in.
Great bowl there.
This would be a great time for Steve just to rest Michael's last bowl.
Yeah. Don't
And
need
he's
to
not
do
far
much.
from it.
And he got it.
Got it.
I think he had
I
a
don't- he
slight,
didn't rest it, but he did get the bowl he was aiming for.
just slightly too much weight for that. If he would have taken off a foot, that would have came in and got it square, I think.
Yep. And I think Michael's just going to put it back again.
He's definitely trying.
Look at this.
Definitely trying.
3 nice bowls from Michael Shea.
Really coming on strong here.
He's probably about a foot and a half short, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say probably close to that.
It's going to be enough to make Steve change his hand.
Mhm.
If he just takes it back a little bit, he's overshot it.
Could be good for second.
It could be. It looks like Eric is happy with what they've left him with.
Interesting how things have changed at the start of the game when he was always down by the time he got to the mat, and now he's always up when he gets to the mat.
How's everybody doing elsewhere?
Yeah, we'll give a quick update as we're looking around. Next door, it's 11-10 now. Ontario's only up 1 in the men's triples over Manitoba.
And
Can't quite see the scoreboard on the rink next door. People are standing there. I think it's 12-10 Saskatchewan over BC.
Ontario has taken a demanding lead over Quebec in the pairs over there.
And the women's pairs?
In the men's
Men's pairs?
pairs. That'd be the men's triples, excuse me. Men's triples.
Oh, you're looking at the Alberta-Quebec game? 25-3 there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Alberta, Quebec, yeah.
Ontario's playing Nova Scotia in the other men's triples, and that's 14-13. Very tight game. Ontario is up 1 on rink 4.
And Nova Scotia and BC pairs men's 17-all on the 15th end. I believe that Steve is looking to come through the gap or push his own up. Came through the gap all right, but just a little bit heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And BC's sitting 2. Last bowl for Eric. One more bowl yet to come from Nova Scotia. Eric's coming in on his own bowl to push it in. Sitting 3 now. And Steve has to come in on to shot bowl. Coming in on a forehand. He's not far off. He got shot bowl.
Beautiful shot there.
And it pushed it over. Looks like he pushed it over to Steve Bezanson's bowl to sit 1. That was a 4-point turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes 1.
1 is all you need, is what they tend to say.
Just has to come at the right time.
That's right. That's right. I guess ideally you might say it needs to be the last bowl. That is the one that you want.
Yep.
I'm very happy that they changed that rule that they used to have back in the day, where if you won the end, you got the choice of Matt or Jack.
Yeah, I believe that that's been a benefit to the sport, to put it back to the last bowl, to the person who lost the last end.
Mm-hmm. I was telling Daryl this story last week when we were commentating, that I played in our provincial singles a few years back, and that when they had that rule of you win, you get the choice, and I took a 4 the first end, and I didn't count again the rest of the game because the gentleman I was playing just connected on his last bowl every end
time,
and just kept taking the hammer because he had that option. So that was hands down the most frustrating game I've ever played, because there's nothing you can do at that point if they connect on their 4th bowl every time. That's that.
Well, you start getting to the point where you just practice your drive, and you take away from your heavy shot, and
see if you can get the jack in the ditch and sit on it. Yeah.
Makes it really tough to have a good game that way, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But now that's not the case. Now it's you win, you take the mat, and it's not really an issue anymore. You'll still always have that opportunity to revenge yourself.
Well, Michael needed to pull through on that end, and he didn't on his second bowl. He had his first bowl very nice weight, and he had a chance to get onto the jack with his adjustment. He came up a little shy.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick is in there on his second bowl with a really good adjustment. You give him two chances at it, and he'll get shot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is Michael's certainly going to be up on this one.
Yeah, he's definitely not short there. It's interesting there. You see Eric's just sort of stepping over someone with their towel there, and he's not bothering to bend down and pick it up. I don't think that's going to come into effect unless the bowl ends up getting back there, but
he probably doesn't even see it
realize
there. So I think that is I think that's Michael Shea's towel, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure what would happen if a bowl ends up hitting that towel and comes to a stop. What the official ruling for that would be?
It's an object on the green, and I believe you get to bowl it over again.
Okay. At this point, you might want to, based on how far away it is from the jack anyway, unless you're looking for a back bowl, but...
Well, it's not Michael's. Michael's just picked up his own towel back there.
Could be maybe...
Steve is going to...
just through the
get
port.
In there. Yeah, took second shot out. Another good back bowl. Certainly not afraid to have sufficient weight. He seldom comes up short.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Has Michael got the weight on this one? I don't think he does. Pulled the string.
Definitely wants that one again, I'm sure.
If Steve takes that bowl back, BC's going to be in a world of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That would tie the game up if he takes it back with this bowl.
And he's definitely not short. That might be what he's looking to do.
He's tight, though. Ooh. That did not work out the way he wanted it.
Probably be looking to sort of tuck the jack behind there if I'm BC.
And Michael looks like he's got a nice bowl here. He's made a good adjustment on his line.
Mm-hmm.
And put it in there in just the right place to be pushed up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
It looks like Steve Ogden's calling for a little bit of upweight here. Got a drop between the blues, and he's got the jack. Oh! That was close.
I would be shocked if they're not calling for a back bull here.
Well, they certainly should be.
I don't know if he's going to get here.
I think he's
coming up quite short.
Yeah.
Not sure if that was supposed to be a guard or just draw into the head.
Like you say, I think I'd have been inclined to put a back bowl in. Thing goes back and he's down 3 just like that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have anything, and he's got a minefield to work through.
Yep, yep. I'm wondering if he was actually calling for a guard there, if he was on the other side, sort of filling that port. That makes it a little tougher to drive at.
He has been doing that, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in time, Steve doesn't have too much to lose.
Nope.
He's going to be going for it. And he's got a pretty decent bowl here. If he gets by that one in front, which he didn't.
Not quite.
Might be in his own way now for an upweight.
Might need to switch hands and still play through the port there, and then get bull or jack.
There's the back bull. That was
much needed.
Yeah. That took away the drive shot. Or, you know, running it to the ditch doesn't do him much good now.
I think he might still be able to play a couple of yards through up the middle, try to get the jack or the bull.
He's just got to drag it back to his 2 bulls in the back.
And he's playing a lot of weight into this.
He's got a lot of weight in it.
Got the bull. BC still holding 1.
The importance of that second bull in the head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ain't that the truth?
I think Eric is just going to muddy the water.
That's traveling quite a distance. That almost drew in for second shot. You can hear Bezanson just said we only got 3 ends left, so he's very aware that, you know, we're down 3 with 3 to go.
He needs
to score here.
He needs to get a couple.
Can't afford to give up any points this end.
What he needs to do is get the jack and change the mat length and the jack length. Put BC searching for the bull.
Well, that almost worked. BC's holding 1.
Still holding 1.
Just need to draw in. He doesn't need to change a whole lot off his last bowl. Just take a little bit more grass and he's in for 2.
Yeah, just a nice draw, forehand.
I don't think he liked that out of his hand right away. He said that's way heavy.
Yeah. BC's sitting with a 4-point lead with two ends to go. Up and back. Quite a change from the first part of the game.
Is it ever? Is it ever? No, I apologize for this game. Normally I'm quite active on social media. I'm normally monitoring Facebook and Twitter, so most people who have questions or concerns, they're normally contacting us on Facebook and Twitter. I don't have that open up right now, but I'm hoping I'll be able to check that during lunch, so if you have any feedback for us, send us a message or a tweet or something like that. On Facebook, it's at BCB Official, and on Twitter, it's at BCB Bowls. I'll do my best to monitor that and get back to you. Might be pressed for time during lunch, though, as we're going to have to rearrange the scaffolding set here and move all the cables as they switch directions for the next round. I think we're keeping shop here, and the one across the way is the one we'll be moving.
Now's the time for BC to bear down on this game, just to maintain that lead. If they can keep the pressure up, and which
so crucial to count here for both teams.
Regardless of how much you're up, you just can't rest on your laurels in this game. The 7-ender can come and go just like that. You got to keep your wits about you.
Now here's a question for you. If you're playing this game, would you rather be up one with the mat coming home or down one with the hammer coming home?
I think I'd rather be up one with the mat coming home. Personally, I'd like to set the jack myself and know what my weight is.
If I'm playing lead, I would definitely agree with you on that.
And you get to choose your length, and if you've been really in the groove and your first bowl's on, then you've certainly got the advantage then.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If the other team throws the jack and you're searching for it.
Last thing you need is to be under pressure on the last end when you're already down one.
Now Patrick's really consistent with his line.
Pardon me?
That's great. CTV's coming.
Yeah, we're going to get some local media coverage here. That's always good to hear. CTV will be on its way too to showcase the event.
Raise a profile of bowls.
Last week when we were in Nova Scotia for the juniors, they had a news station come down and they interviewed Braden Campbell, and I can't remember who else they interviewed, but they did it really interesting where they put the mic on him and had him go down, stand at the other end and deliver a bowl, and he was standing at this end and asking them questions. So Braden's talking and delivering a bowl at the same time, which is such a...
That's a neat way to do it.
Yeah, a different way to do an interview.
Get to see it from a bird's eye perspective. From the player's perspective. Steve's got a nice line here. It's all in his weight, and he's heavy.
Yeah, he's quick.
Looks from the body language there that a little down. Now's the time to stay up.
And if you can see next door there on rink 6, I think they've got a jack and bull in the ditch beside us, as I've seen a couple bulls come relatively close to our rink coming in. It looks very scattered out there, but that's because jack is in the ditch, which I guess you might not be able to see as it's pretty far away from this camera angle.
And it looks like the shot bull is sitting right on top of it. See the two markers.
Yeah.
And he's still heavy.
And there you see he's calling for a back bull now. Anything back by my feet would be
That's
helpful.
what he's calling for. That's one of the key aspects for the third player, is being able to play a position bowl. You know, draw to a spot on the green. He's got a good back bowl there.
That's a good place to be. Eric should be happy with that.
He certainly got it behind the jack. So he's sitting shot maybe 3.
Still plenty of room to draw in there, though.
Lots of room. At this point in time, drawing anything within plus or minus 2 feet is gonna.
It's going to be enough. Of course, if you're Nova Scotia, you're looking for more than 1 here. It's difficult to be down 3 going home. If you could only be down 1 or 2, that makes life a lot easier. And if you're BC, you're just looking to count. If you can have a 5-point lead going home, you're in a pretty good spot.
Pretty good spot. It's tough to get more than a couple. And Steve came up tight on that last bowl. He had fairly decent weight, but just came tight, which usually indicates that somebody's just uptight. You're uptight, you come tight.
Yep, yep.
Eric's taking his time on the mat.
Interesting to see where he stands on the mat. He's very far front left corner, where part of his shoe is actually not even on the mat in the first place. He's just barely grazing the corner where he's standing with that new rule change where only part of your foot has to be on or above the mat. He's taken full advantage of that with only just covering a corner of the mat.
I see a lot of bowlers doing that with that shooter stance.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, he takes the same position virtually every time, whether he's forehand or backhand.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good one.
That's a good place to be.
Covered off the majority of the ones at the back. He's just matching bowls right now. I don't think he's too worried. He can bowl relaxed, puts him in an envious position.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think Steve is tight.
His weight's not too bad, I felt.
Weight was perfect. Weight was perfect. You know, you just get up, you just get under the pressure and you bowl tight.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it so often. And it looks like Michael's trying to block it up.
Drawn into the line is what he's trying, but he didn't quite get there. So that's still very drawable.
It's open. It's going to be tough to make more than one out of it, though.
And I think that's what Besancon's standing up there saying, you know, we're down 3, but need to score here, buddy.
He's got to get shot. He's done it before where he's had a 4-point turnaround. He's got his width on this one. It's just all in his weight now. Little wick off of there, and he missed it.
Quite.
Had he picked up that little rub, he'd have had it. I think that's just about game over there.
That'll do it, just about. 7-point lead.
A 7-point lead coming home.
That's going to be awfully tough for...
My gosh, they've only... Nova Scotia's only picked up 2 points, whereas British Columbia's picked up 17. From 14-6 to 23-16.
Mm-hmm. Quite the swing.
Big swing.
Looking over on rink 5, it's 13-10 for Saskatchewan over BC in the other men's triples match. The rink immediately next door, I think Ontario's up 13-10 over Manitoba. I can't quite see Ontario's score, but I can see Manitoba has 10.
And
15-10 for Ontario.
15-10. And in the pairs, Nova Scotia's up 1 on BC.
18-17, yeah. Quebec women's triples. Quebec is up 21-7 over Alberta.
A couple big scores.
Mm-hmm. Women's triples, I think Ontario's up 17-11 over Nova Scotia. BCA is up 21-13 over Saskatchewan.
And first bowl coming home. Patrick has made a superlative first shot.
Mm-hmm.
Jack level. One bowl off to the side.
Life gets easy when you're at this stage and you're up 7 going home and you've already got one on the jack. Now you're just looking for a position and probably a second shot, and you're laughing.
Just like practice.
Yeah.
And he's putting another one in there if he gets by Michael's bowl, which he's not going to make it.
Not quite.
Still not a bad shot. He's within mat length in the front.
Yeah, that's a usable bowl.
Certainly he's given Michael a bowl to push in. Michael's just got to get around it onto shot bowl. But it'll be a long way from making 7 points.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Over on rink 1, Manitoba's down 25-8 in men's pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Tough position. Can you see who they're playing against there?
Yeah, they're playing against Ontario. That's the
Ontario.
The Stefan brothers.
Formidable team.
Yeah, they've been around for quite some time. I've heard them tell stories about how they used to do things back in the 80s, maybe even 70s. Years of experience. Believe last year they finished 4th in the pairs, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
So we have Michael Shea stepping up for BC, and they're up 1 in the head, 7 on the board.
Here is where it can be easy to just sort of throw your bowls and not think too much or care too much. But as we were talking about earlier, plus minus may come into effect when tiebreakers happen if need be. So you can't really just call it an end. You still need to try to score as many points as you can here and play relatively smart.
I think Steve is coming in to try to push up one of his bowls.
And he's got him.
And he's got him.
And that'll do
He's
it for
got shot out of it.
For one Nova Scotia.
Good advance, yeah.
One thing I do love about playing on an outside rink, or relatively outside rink, is that you can walk up and down the side here. As I can just see Mike is walking up towards us here. After you've thrown your bowls, you're out of the rink, so you're not,
Not in anybody's
not
way.
anybody's way, but you can still come down and take a look.
So what do you think about the round robin format as compared to the double knockout?
Interesting. Based on 10 teams here, I do like round robin because you get to play everybody. With a double knockout, that's not necessarily the case. But I do also like the concept of a double knockout where if you haven't lost your second game, you still have a chance. You know when you're going to be going out, and if you lose two games, then then you know when you leave. So I'm torn. If we had time, I guess I would probably prefer the double knockout, but I know that can sometimes take a little longer to complete, depending on how many teams you have, whereas round robin, 10 teams, you play 9 games, and that's that. But
really boils down to how the draw goes, too.
It does. It does. You could really get a luck of the draw type thing, or a very unluck of the draw.
You get in a section where you've got all of the good bowlers in the draw, and they knock each other out.
That's fair. So I think round robin here is a little more even playing field, I suppose. Everybody knows that you're playing everybody. It's relatively the same for everyone, although I know there's still arguments about I played this team on an end rink and it was unplayable, and that's why I didn't make it to the final, or what have you. But
and you've just got all of the, one team from each province, or 2 teams at the most from each province, and the round robin makes a lot of sense.
Do you prefer the double knockout format?
It really depends on if it's open or if it's closed. When you've got just one team from every province, or 2 teams from the very from the larger provinces, the round robin makes a lot of sense. The double knockout can be quite a challenge if you run into 2 really good teams right off the bat and you're out.
Yep.
Well, it looks like this end kind of hurt a little bit.
Augie's going to come down and take a look.
This is not a time to give up a 7-ender.
No, it is not.
Right now, it looks like it's 3.
If they can get rid of that...
get rid of the one blue bowl, we could have a 7-ender again.
Yeah.
One BC bowl, and as number 4 by the looks of it.
Interesting call there. Steve Pazanson said you just need to turn that shot bowl over once and that'll move the jack back an inch or two. And they'll be lying 6 if the shooter is there.
That's right.
And so then they're expecting Ogden to draw it with his last one to make 7, which is an interesting call.
And it could work. He's certainly got a good bowl.
In the neighborhood.
He's in the neighborhood is right. It's just about perfect.
Just about perfect.
He's now sitting at least 4, maybe at least 4, maybe 5. Depends how the back bowl is relative to Michael Shea's bowl on the top left side there.
Zanson was saying 6, maybe 7, which I don't know if he was being serious or not. You can never tell with him. He likes to joke and be optimistic quite a bit. But this is a big shot here for Eric nonetheless.
It shows you cannot be complacent. He's got to get something into the head.
And his last bowl he threw was a drive, so he now has to try to draw in here after throwing a drive, and he's coming up
which
short,
is
I
tough
believe.
to do.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're, my gosh, it could be 4 or 5. And if that one bowl is to go, it could be 6 or 7. It's worth going after.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Humming and hawing about this, and now since we are playing a round robin, and then there'll be tiebreakers on the Friday afternoon if necessary, the games can end in a tie. So if Nova Scotia were to get 7 here, the game would just end 23-23, and that would be it. Which, after talking to a lot of players, it's kind of a disappointing end to a game. You play, 16 ends. You kind of want to determine a winner. You don't really want to end things in a draw.
That's right.
But this could be a very interesting end to the game here if they can actually pull off the 7. That would be quite the ending.
What a way to end the game.
Yeah. Well, it kind of shows that neither team really needed the 7-ender, that they're pretty equal. We'd give up 7 and we'll take 7.
It looks like he's just going to draw in.
So I guess they might be confident that they're lying 6 right now. I think they're going to put a tape to that, I'm sure.
They could be sitting 6 right now.
They're shaking hands, but I'm not sure what the count was there.
Yeah, Steve says, give me the bowls you agree with.
So he takes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6, 7.
And then now...
is that 6 or 7 that he's pulled out right now? It's 7 bowls.
And now Ogden's saying, what about this one over here? Are you going to measure it, or will you just give it up?
What an ending. What an ending.
Ogden's putting the fingers to it, but I'm not sure why you would bother.
Put a measure on it.
Put a measure on it. When it's the end of the game, you definitely don't want to be giving it up based on fingers.
No, that should make Steve happy.
So they at least tied the game. They might have even won it here.
Better check it again.
Yeah.
All he had to do was draw within. It just shows you how the pressure gets to a person. And so often you have to have that calmness to come through it. It's got nothing to do with how the other team bowls. It's got to do with how you perform under the pressure.
That's right. That's right.
And he got it.
He got 8.
got an 8-ender to win the game.
That is quite the ending.
Quite a spectacular ending to a
So that is
game.
24-23 Nova Scotia A over BCA in the men's triples opening round at the 2017 Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships. That is something else.
Incredible ending.
That is great. All right, so that is it for this first round here. We're going to take a short break for lunch and wait for the rest of the games to finish up. We'll be back this afternoon for round 2. I'm not quite sure what rink we'll be on. I'd be guessing probably 1 or 2 on the A deck. We'll do our best to confirm that with you through social media, Facebook or Twitter, so stay tuned to that. Thanks for commentating with me here, Ivo.
Hey, that was great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you guys all this afternoon.
Well, that was fun. What an ending to that game.
What an ending.
Oh, my goodness. I got a hunch we're going to see 3 broken-hearted BC guys.
Yeah.
I'll just leave my jacket here.
Yeah, might as well. Nobody else will be coming up here.
Now, do you need a hand moving this equipment?
This one is actually going to be able to stay here, because if we're doing rink 1, I can just see right here in front of us,
Super.
but it's that one that we're going to have to move over there and over around,
Okay.
but we can't really do anything until they're done playing, so we don't want to be moving that back behind them as they're still going, so once the games are done, I'm sure Daryl and I will be able to get things going along, so if you want to, I don't know, zip over for lunch or do whatever else you want to do, walk around, shake your legs.
If I give you a hand at all, just give me a call. If it's all helper.
Alrighty.
Dave just gave me this job to keep me quiet. There's something to do there.